To build a mecha, my secret stash was exposed by my wife. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 226 The Aftermath of the Youngest Academician. Honey, are you sure you're not mistaken? When did you tell me that? Seeing Gao Luofei's puzzled look, Suze gently tapped her forehead. Silly girl, didn't you just ask me? How come you've forgotten already? After Suze's prompting, Gao Luofei seemed to understand what he meant. Honey, are you talking about that 1,000-person plan I mentioned to you earlier? Hearing Gao Luofei's question, Suze nodded. Yes, actually, the 1,000 Talents program you saw was just a conference list for the program. I participated as an academician. Being an academician is an honor, but baby, I can't just tell you directly, can I? Even if you don't misunderstand, it would just seem like I'm showing off how amazing I am, but I also thought that since we're married, there are things I can't hide from you. I took out that storage box because I thought if you saw it and asked about it, I would honestly tell you I'm an academician, but what happened later, I didn't ask, so I was too embarrassed to continue. Before Suze could finish speaking, Gao Luofei threw herself into his arms, saying apologetically, honey, it's all my fault. I was so stupid. If I were smarter and understood your thoughts, this wouldn't have happened. Honey, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Alright, baby, don't be sad. It's not a big deal. You know now anyway. Suze hugged Gao Luofei and gently patted her back. With Suze's comfort, Gao Luofei's emotions gradually stabilized. Yes, husband, you are my pride. My husband is an academician, and the youngest one at that. I want the whole world to know just how amazing my husband is. Gao Luofei's dream had come true. As one of the most popular live streaming variety shows, Finding Hidden Money already had a very high level of popularity. Because of Suze's identity, the number of simultaneous viewers in the live stream reached over 80 million, breaking the record for simultaneous online viewership once again. And along with breaking the record for simultaneous online viewership, there was a staggering number of 8,000 viewers. Such a terrifying number could be said to cover millions of households. In just this short period, while not everyone in the country knew about Suze's deeds, it was more than enough for 40–50% of the population to know about them. For example, Li Ling, who was originally in the capital missing her daughter, had been following Hidden Money to keep track of Gao Luofei's daily life. Li Ling witnessed everything that happened today. She was extremely satisfied with her son-in-law, Suze, as he was both capable and doted on her daughter. Although he liked to hide money, she considered it a minor flaw. In fact, she felt some resentment towards her daughter, Gao Luofei's behavior. What's so great about digging up all the secrets a man might have? However, as Suze's identity was revealed, Li Ling became deeply attracted. From a young scientist to a member of the 1,000 Talents program, like everyone else, Li Ling assumed Suze was also a member of the program. This alone made her incredibly proud. Her son-in-law, at such a young age, had achieved so much. His future was definitely bright. Li Ling had even remarked that her daughter had excellent judgment. If they had followed Gao Yuanshan's wishes and married Zhao Yan, it would have been a huge mistake. But who could have predicted that the 1,000 Talents program, which they thought was the key to Suze's success, wouldn't have been able to stop him? Suze was an academician, and he had become one 8 years ago, just as he came of age. When Li Ling saw this news, even this worldly woman was shocked. It took her a long time to recover. Academicians are people worthy of the respect of the entire nation. Li Ling had previously told Gao Yuanshan how wonderful it would be if their family could produce an academician. But it was just a hope, since they only had one daughter, Gao Luofei. And Gao Luofei didn't have any talent in scientific research, so it seemed this wish would never come true. But life is unpredictable. Who could have imagined that their wish would be fulfilled by their son-in-law, Suze? With her wish fulfilled, Li Ling's mood improved considerably. At the same time, she once again blamed Gao Yuanshan. If her daughter had really separated from Suze because of him, she would have truly regretted it. Coincidentally, just as Li Ling was thinking this, The door opened from the outside, and Gao Yuanshan's figure came into view. Seeing Gao Yuanshan's smiling face, Li Ling immediately turned cold and said to him, "So you know how to come back?" Gao Yuanshan was a little confused by Li Ling's angry expression. Normally, if he made Li Ling angry, Gao Yuanshan would know how to coax her and what to do to appease her. But Li Ling's inexplicable anger left Gao Yuanshan completely at a loss. "Wife, why are you angry? What did I do wrong again? What did you do wrong? Do you know how wrong it was to separate Fei Fei and Xiao Ze back then? Wife, haven't I already said that? I know I was wrong, why are you bringing it up again?" Ever since Su Ze's initial mech was exposed last time, Gao Yuanshan had deeply realized his mistakes and expressed deep remorse for his past behavior. He had already apologized, so why was Li Ling suddenly bringing it up again? Look at the news yourself. Hearing what Li Ling said, Gao Yuanshan opened his phone with curiosity. As soon as his screen lit up, he saw a flood of messages on WeChat from friends, classmates, colleagues, and former bosses, either privately messaging him or tagging him in group chats. What's going on today? Why are they all tagging me? Chapter 227. An 18-year-old academician makes a living by working at a toy company. Old Gao, could you let my daughter have your son-in-law? Or maybe our two families could become in-laws. Gao Yuanshan opened Director Wang's chat window and saw the message. You're dreaming. Su's heir will always be my son-in-law. He must be my son-in-law, not yours. How old are you? Don't say things like that. Go away. What about Suzette? Gao Yuanshan replied firmly. This old man, what has he found out now that he's so upset? He can even say something like this as a joke. You don't know what? That Suzette kid has been hiding it from us for a long time. He's actually an academician. Looking at Director Wang's words, Gao Yuanshan replied directly, an academician? What academician? What academician? What else could it be? Of course, an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Are you kidding me? Gao Yuanshan's first thought was disbelief. How old is Suzette? And he's already saying Suzette is an academician? What a joke. Who's joking with you? Who has the mind to joke with you? This was personally confirmed by academician Yang Shengli. If I didn't know Suzette was an academician right after turning 18, why would I have thought of having my daughter marry into your family? I don't know where you got such good fortune. You always said you hoped to have an academician in your family, and it actually came true, and you weren't happy about your daughter marrying Suzette back then. You should be secretly happy about it. Speaking of which, Suzette's level of secrecy is quite high. Even I, the director of the secrecy department, didn't know about him. After saying that, Director Wang sent Gao Yuanshan a link. After opening the link, he saw that it was a news release from a national-level media platform like Sunshine Media. After reading the article, Gao Yuanshan realized that what Director Wang said was actually true. Then, Gao Yuanshan understood why Li Ling was like this. Wife, you did a good job. You should be angry. Gao Yuanshan ignored Li Ling's stern face, picked her up and kissed her. Then he exclaimed happily, Wife, I'm so happy. Our family actually has an academician. At this moment, Gao Yuanshan was no longer a renowned general, but a family member who had just learned how outstanding his child was. That Xiao Ze is really something, not even telling you beforehand about something so important. If he had told you, would you have believed him? Don't you know what he's like? You'd definitely think he was lying to you, Li Ling retorted directly to Gao Yuanshan's words. Hearing Li Ling's words, Gao Yuanshan scratched his head, somewhat embarrassed. Indeed, he had such a strong prejudice against Suzette at the time, he certainly wouldn't have believed it. Of course, Gao Yuanshan believed that most parents of daughters wouldn't believe it either. After all, who could imagine that an ordinary-looking toy technician, earning at most around 10,000 yuan a month, would actually be an academician, and one who became an academician so young? Thank goodness our daughter got her taste from me. If she had gotten it from you, she'd probably regret it for the rest of her life. What do you mean, from you? It's definitely from me, okay? After all, if I didn't have good taste, how could I have found such an excellent wife like you? Ugh, we're an old married couple, aren't you afraid people will hear and gossip? Gao Yuanshan's sudden remark made Li Ling roll her eyes at him, saying irritably. What's wrong? This is my home, you're my wife, what I say is none of anyone else's business, Gao Yuanshan said matter-of-factly. After saying that, Gao Yuanshan opened WeChat and responded amicably to everyone who knew about Suzette. Yes, I actually knew about this a long time ago, but I didn't want to cause any unnecessary trouble. Thank you all for your blessings. I'll pass them on to my son, Zios. Yes, Suzanne is such a promising young man. I could tell the first time I saw him, he's definitely a genius. He and my daughter are a perfect match. Did you know that one of my former colleagues is actually an academician? Really? Ziali, don't you work at a toy company? How could you have a colleague who's an academician? You must be confused, Ziali. You don't work at Jinbei Toys, do you? Yes, I work there. Ziali isn't lying, her colleague really is an academician. Ziali, what's Academician Sue like? What's his personality like? Let me tell you, Academician Sue is incredibly handsome and has an excellent character. Especially when he's working, his seriousness combined with his handsome appearance is simply breathtaking. We used to think he was single, and we even arranged blind dates for Academician Sue. It wasn't until the day before yesterday that we found out he's actually married, and his wife is the big star Gao Luofei. Holy crap, Ziali, is that true? Working with an academician, that'll be so much bragging rights. Quick, do you have any exclusive photos of Academician Sue? Let me see some recent pictures of him at work. Image JPG, image JPG, image JPG. You should thank me. This is a perk no one else can get. That profile, unbeatable. Do you have any autographs? My son is already a huge fan of Academician Sue. Can I have one? I'll pay for it. Me too. A phenomenal research genius unexpectedly exposed. Just how phenomenal is the hidden research genius in Xia country? Xia country has ulterior motives, hiding a young genius. Its threat to the world is rising step by step. An 18-year-old genius from the Xia Country Academy of Sciences has been reduced to making a living by developing products at a toy company. The research environment in Xia Country exposed. It's heartbreaking. Real-time developments in the technology sector naturally attract significant attention from all sides. Sure enough, shortly after the issue gained traction domestically, countries like the United States began using it to stir up trouble, launching a barrage of threats and defamatory statements. Chapter 228 Suze's danger level was adjusted to SSS-level. Johnson, the head of intelligence for the Xia Kingdom region, initially thought Suze was just a scientific genius from the Xia Kingdom. While such a person was formidable, resources were limited. Before he reached his full potential, the only options were to win him over or eliminate him. Furthermore, since he wasn't an official, resources such as money, research equipment, and manpower were within his control, which would significantly slow down Suze's research. However, all of this changed after learning that Suze was actually an academician of the Xia Kingdom Academy of Sciences, and had become an academician 8 years prior. 18 years old is the most spirited and energetic time of one's life. At this age, one is no longer considered young, but rather a teenager. Although their knowledge and experience may not be as rich as those of older people, their creativity and imagination are still developing, possessing strong practical skills and the drive to turn dreams into reality. Johnson believed that if Suze were in the United States, he would definitely strongly support his research. If the United States would be so supportive, what about Xia Kingdom? Over the past 8 years, Xiaoguo would absolutely not give up on a scientific genius like Suze. They would provide him with as much funding, equipment, and money as he desired, all to unleash his full potential. However, after such a long time, the US still had no clue what technology Suze had developed or how many he had developed. Even worse, Johnson had mobilized all his spies to investigate why Suze, as an academician, was working at the explosive toys company, but they hadn't obtained any reliable intelligence. Currently, the initial mech, Candle Dragon, Zhao, and the mysteriously murdered spy had already caused considerable trouble for the US, enough to give them a headache. Given the ability to develop the initial mech and Candle Dragon, who could guarantee that Suze wouldn't develop even greater weapons given more time? Everyone could understand hiding Suze's academician status, as it was a way to protect his personal safety and prevent him from attracting attention. But the most crucial thing, and what concerned the US leaders, Sleepyhead and Johnson, even more, was why Suze, as an academician, was engaged in toy technology research and development. It's important to understand that the difference between toy research and being an academician is significant. This led both President Trump and Johnson to suspect that something unseen was happening behind the scenes. All this uncertainty made even President Trump, let alone Johnson, lose his composure. He immediately contacted Johnson and brought him to his office for a briefing. In short, Any future funding needs from the Xia Kingdom region could be met by contacting him directly. He could also provide manpower. The sole objective was to uncover all information about Suzette, ultimately bringing him back to America or eliminating him. With Trump's strong support, Johnson immediately called Black Hand and gave him orders. Black Hand, effective immediately, raise Suzette's danger level to SS. Use every means possible to bring Suzette back to America. If he remains obstinate within a week, consider killing him outright. All previous orders are null and void. Currently, America's highest danger level is SSS, and in the scientific research field, only one person, Fuchsing, holds that SSS rank. It's easy to imagine how much of a threat Suzette poses in America's eyes. Athena will contact you shortly. All actions will be carried out according to Athena's instructions. Athena's mission is the complete opposite of Black Hand's. Like her name suggests, she is a symbol of wisdom. Unlike Black Hand's brute force, Athena excels in strategy and tactics. After listening to Black Hand's 2 reports, Johnson understood that on Xia country's soil, a direct assault would be futile. The only way to succeed would be a third world war, which is impossible. No one would be that crazy. Besides a direct assault, only a clever strategy can possibly complete the mission. It was precisely because of this factor that Athena was sent out, someone who had never acted in public, whose gender was unknown to the Xia Kingdom, and who had remained hidden behind the scenes. From now on, if you need anything, just contact Athena directly. Understand, success is all that matters, failure is not an option. If you fail, that's the moment you, Black Hand, are removed from the list, Johnson said firmly to Black Hand. Black Hand understood the implication of Johnson's words perfectly. The moment Black Hand's name disappeared from the list meant that Black Hand himself would also disappear from the world. Understood, leader, mission accomplished. In Black Hand's eyes, these 2 failed missions were a great disgrace. Not only did they not cause any loss to Suzette, but they also needlessly lost many people. Even without Johnson's instruction, Black Hand would not abandon Suzette as his target. However, the only thing that bothered Black Hand was that he actually had to obey Athena's orders. Not long after hanging up, Black Hand's communication rang again. I suppose the boss has already told you. A disguised, mechanical voice, indistinguishable between male and female, came from the other end of the communicator. Yes, Black Hand replied in the same tone, echoing the cold, arrogant voice. Black Hand was usually arrogant towards others. He wouldn't tolerate being spoken to like that. How, where does someone who failed a mission get such pride? Alright, I won't waste any more words with you. I'll send you my plan later, you'll act according to it. Hearing Athena's annoying voice, Black Hand wanted to lash out, but remembering Johnson's orders, his position was now lower than Athena's. Though angry, he could only swallow his resentment. Understood. Chapter 229. What exactly did Suzette invent to become an academician? In a dark room, a person opened a document on a computer. After printing it out, they began to scribble and draw on it. In the dim light of the computer screen, sitting before the computer was a sharp-looking young man. Who would have thought that the renowned Athena, the symbol of wisdom and strategy, would be a man? But upon reflection, it made perfect sense. After all, if it were a woman, she wouldn't need a voice changer, would she? As she drew, Athena's eyes gleamed. Each stroke was the result of deep thought, each movement imbued with profound wisdom. When she finally stopped, the document was covered in red and black ink, English and images mixed together. Athena was planning how to complete her mission. Based on the plan, Athena then listed the necessary personnel, equipment, and so on. This mission will be absolutely flawless, Athena said confidently, looking at her final research results. Although this mission would take anywhere from 1 to 6 months to plan and complete. Although it takes a long time, it's well worth it if the task can be completed discreetly. This is what distinguishes Athena from Black Hand. After finalizing the plan, Athena sent the necessary manpower and resources to Johnson through special means, instructing him to prepare. Simultaneously, in conjunction with the plan, Athena also gave Black Hand orders. The orders were simple. Black Hand was to monitor Suzette's every word and action. I'm Black Hand. You're making me monitor him? Are you kidding me? Black Hand was extremely dissatisfied with Athena's arrangement. While Black Hand was complaining, on the other side, Guoan and his team, who were monitoring Black Hand's situation, learned of what was happening. After learning about the exposure of academician Suzette, Guoan understood the immense impact this would have on those with malicious intentions. An academician, especially a young one. How terrifying. Knowing this, Guoan immediately strengthened security around Suze's home, closely monitoring all the movements of foreign forces. And among them, the United States was naturally the first to be targeted. Sure enough, through the surveillance information from Skynet, Guoan learned about the specific movements of the United States. They actually assigned Athena to handle this matter. This is getting tricky. As Johnson had suspected, very little information about Athena was available to the Security Department. Besides knowing her exceptional strategic skills, her gender was completely unknown. If Athena were with a black hand, it would be easier. Through Skynet, Guoan could immediately locate Athena and analyze her current identity, occupation, and family situation. But now, he hadn't expected Athena to be so cautious even with her own people, communicating via telephone using a voice changer. Although the situation was somewhat troublesome, Guoan naturally wouldn't do nothing. He immediately packaged the information he had gathered, along with the Black Hand's audio and video recordings, and sent them to Director Wang. After that, he would await his superior's instructions. They're really quick. They couldn't wait that long. SSS-level, they really value Suzette, but it's quite unexpected. If it weren't for today's events, I wouldn't have known that Suzette was actually an academician in private, Director Wang said with great surprise after watching the information and video sent by Guoan. Since the United States thinks so highly of them, Director Wang naturally can't lose face. Now, without the United States' knowledge, the Security Department can monitor the actions of the mastermind at any time, which is already a step ahead. Director Wang doesn't believe that the United States can still succeed like this. However, there is still one thing that Director Wang can't let go of. That is, what kind of product did Suzette develop that allowed him to be elected as an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences so young? Meanwhile, at Suzette's home, Suzette and the others are still unaware of everything that happened outside. At this moment, everyone is still slowly digesting the information that Suzette is an academician. While digesting it, Yi Yinglan suddenly thought of something and asked Suzette, "Academician Su, you must also receive a government stipend, right?" Hearing Yi Yinglan's question, Suzette nodded and said, "Yes, that's right, academicians do receive government stipends." If Yi Yinglan hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten about it. I thought that was the end of it for today, that I hadn't found anything about the money, but in the end, I couldn't escape it. In Suzette's mind, he already knew why Yi Yinglan was asking this. Since Yi Yinglan was participating in the Finding Hidden Money program, she was simply asking where Suzette's government stipend had gone. "Fifei, you definitely haven't seen this money, have you?" Even if Gao Luofei didn't answer, Yi Yinglan and the viewers in the live stream already had the answer in their hearts. Expert Yi, this question is pointless. Even the goddess doesn't know Professor Su is an academician. How could she possibly know about the national stipend? I've heard the national stipend is very generous. It must have been a huge sum over 8 years. I wonder how much academician Su has secretly hidden away. Even if it's generous, he'd still have to hand it over. Hearing Yi Yinglan's question, Gao Luofei shook her head and said, "I've never seen it." Seeing this, Yi Yinglan turned to Suzette and said, "Academician Su, according to the program's rules, since you said Fifei was unaware of this money, then this can be considered your private stash. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels." Chapter 230 Academicians should receive national subsidies, right? Since it's a secret stash of money, Academician Su, shouldn't you hand over this bank card containing your government stipend? Actually, compared to the revelation of Academician Su's identity, no one really cared about this small amount of government stipend. But since it's a secret stash, isn't that fun? The viewers in the live stream were quite amused to see identified academician being asked for his secret stash. Gao Luofei's thoughts were actually different from the viewers. She was happy to see Suzette's secret stash discovered, but she didn't want him to hand it over. The government stipend over 8 years was probably only a few million yuan. Compared to the discovered stash, it was nothing. "Alright, Yinglan, don't ask my husband for this money." Thinking this, Gao Luofei said to Yi Yinglan, "Since you don't want it, Fifei, then forget it." Seeing that Gao Luofei, the person in charge, had said so, Yi Yinglan naturally wouldn't pester Suzette. Moreover, Yi Yinglan remembered Chen Yang's words, one couldn't offend a big shot like Suzette, otherwise it would be very difficult to succeed in scientific research. If Yi Yinglan hadn't watched the live streams of the previous 2 days, although she didn't know why Suzette was hiding money, she could clearly sense that Suzette showed no anger at all each time his hidden money was discovered. It was precisely because of this that Yi Yinglan dared to say that Suzette should hand over his state allowance. However, in the past 2 days, Yi Yinglan also noticed that even when the Yaoli glass group was discovered, Suzette remained remarkably calm. That calmness wasn't feigned, it was genuine indifference, an attitude of nonchalance even towards the 5 billion yuan Yaoli glass group. Actually, thinking about it, it makes sense. If Suzette were the kind of person who valued money above all else, how could he dress so modestly in his daily life? Given this, Yi Yinglan had a question in her mind. Why would Suzette, who seemed so indifferent to money, hide so much money from Gao Luofei? This was something Yi Yinglan couldn't understand. The secret behind this ignited a strong desire in Yi Yinglan to explore it. She felt that if this were discovered, it would be no less significant than the sensation caused by Suzette becoming an academician at 18. Hearing what Gao Luofei and Yi Yinglan said, Suzette took a bank card from his wallet and handed it to Gao Luofei, saying, "Fifei, it's alright, I don't need it anyway. This is a bank card with my government subsidies, you can take it." Gao Luofei was quite surprised to see Suzette handing her the bank card from her own wallet. She was very familiar with what was in Suzette's wallet, but she had no recollection of this ICBC bank card. She wondered where Suzette had gotten it from. Was there a hidden compartment in the wallet? Would a closer search of Suzette's wallet reveal more discoveries? Suzette noticed Gao Luofei's expression and explained, "Honey, I only had this one ICBC bank card hidden in a compartment in my wallet that you didn't find. You know what else I had? I didn't hide anything else." Hearing Suzette's explanation, Gao Luofei reluctantly chose to believe him. She nodded and said nothing more. Seeing Gao Luofei's behavior, the viewers in the live stream teased her. "No, goddess, you have to check. You can't trust Suzette, he has a criminal record, haha. I didn't expect Professor Su to still have any credibility in front of Goddess Gao, that's different. Brother. Even if there's suspicion, couples checking each other's belongings will definitely try to resolve it privately. If it's resolved publicly, we can keep an eye on things and make Goddess and Academician Su more discreet. If it's resolved privately, they'll probably fight." Fight? What kind of fight? In bed or out of bed? What? This isn't a kindergarten. I want to get off. The door's welded shut. Don't even think about getting off. Fifei, you can keep it. It's useless to me anyway. Suzette was telling the truth. He had never used the bank card containing his government subsidies, and if it weren't for this incident, he wouldn't have even remembered it was in his wallet. As for why it was hidden in Suzette's wallet if he hadn't touched it, it's because Suzette had been using that wallet for over 5 years. Suzette hadn't used this wallet much, and it looked brand new. Since he didn't seem to need it, he continued using it. Gao Luofei had noticed Suzette's wallet before. Judging by the style, she knew it was 5 years old, and not from a luxury brand, just a regular mass-market brand. Gao Luofei had considered getting Suzette a new wallet, but he didn't seem to care, saying he'd grown attached to it after so long, so she hadn't brought it up again. Today, however, she was surprised to find a bank card she didn't know was inside this wallet that held such special meaning for him. It seemed she'd have to buy Suzette a new wallet to replace this old one. Since Suzette had said so, Gao Luofei took the wallet from him. Seeing Gao Luofei holding the bank card, Bingbing, as the host, stepped forward and walked to Suzette's side, asking, "Suzette, how much money is in this bank card? I'm not sure, I haven't used this card before. I'll have to check sometime." This bank card was from 5 years ago, and Suzette really didn't know the balance. "Let's forget about it today, it's getting late, the bank is probably closed. Let's talk about it tomorrow." Gao Luofei checked the time and realized it was already past 6 o'clock, the bank should have closed long ago. She decided to wait until tomorrow. Chapter 231 I will definitely investigate the fact that Suzette is an academician. Although everyone was curious about the exact amount in the bank card, since Gao Luofei had already spoken, they wisely kept quiet. However, for Bingbing, Yi Yinglan, and the viewers in the live stream, while they hadn't discovered any hidden money belonging to Suzette, they had a very unexpected discovery. The revelation of Suzette's hidden profession, an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, caused a huge sensation. Even now, nearly an hour later, keywords related to Suzette, academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and the youngest academician on various online platforms are rapidly climbing in both clicks and popularity, a speed that would make countless celebrities, idols, and internet celebrities envious. However, compared to the others' fascination with this spectacle, beneath Bingbing's lively, happy, and surprised expression lay deep worry and anxiety. Was it really a good thing that their program team had revealed Suzette's academician status? Finding Hidden Money was originally intended as a variety show for mass entertainment. The selection of Gao Luofei as a guest was made when the show's popularity was declining and Gao Luofei had a need for the service. Now, just a few days later, the show's direction has completely changed. Those hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of expensive liquor, cigarettes, and tea are nothing but child's play compared to Suzette's hidden money. The hidden money Suzette had discovered consisted of things like initial Mecha, Zawu, and Zhulin, groundbreaking technological products, diamond black cards from Hermes and Louis Vuitton, the behind-the-scenes boss of Yaoli Glass Group, and now, as revealed, Suzette becoming an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences 8 years ago, at the age of 18. This variety of unique hidden money put immense pressure on Bingbing, the show's host. Previously, it was manageable, as it was still within a controllable range. However, upon learning that an academician like Suzette had secretly married Gao Luofei and was working for a mid-sized toy company, Bingbing couldn't help but suspect that their exploration today might have inadvertently disrupted something important, causing significant damage to the country. Furthermore, as a host, and a famous one at that, Bingbing regularly underwent security training. She knew that beneath the surface, undercurrents were surging. Suzette was already being targeted by spies from other countries, especially the recently exposed United States and Japan, due to the initial Mecha and the Candle Dragon incident, seriously endangering his life. Now, knowing Suzette's academician status, they must be extremely uneasy, reassessing his importance and the potential impact he might have. They might currently only intend to kidnap Suzette and obtain relevant technical data, but now, they might be enraged and choose to kill him to silence him. Station director, the popularity of Finding Hidden Money has surged again. The number of real-time viewers has now surpassed 90 million, and it wasn't just Bingbing who was thrilled. Inside the station director's office at the Imperial Television Station, a radiant smile spread across his face upon hearing the good news reported by the program's production manager. 90 million. That broke all previous records for radio programs, a truly momentous event. The station director was already overjoyed by the program's explosive success. After all, the sponsorship fees for Finding Hidden Money had increased exponentially in the past few days. He could earn a substantial amount from the program's sponsorship fees. With that money, the Imperial Television Station could invest in more programming. Hearing that the program had broken records again, the station director's smile grew even brighter. Come, Lao Su, tell me, what happened to the show this time? Why is the viewership so high again? The show's popularity and profitability made Hao Yaoguang, the director of the Beijing TV station, look at his subordinate Su Haiyang with appreciative eyes and great politeness. Seeing Hao Yaoguang's friendly gaze, Su Haiyang became even more respectful, and inwardly pleased. With Hao Yaoguang treating him this way, a promotion seemed imminent. Hearing Hao Yaoguang's question, Su Haiyang recounted the entire incident that had just occurred in the live broadcast room in detail. Director, don't worry, I will definitely have Bingbing explore this area more deeply, striving to break 100 million viewers as soon as possible. After saying this, Su Haiyang patted his chest and assured Hao Yaoguang. What did you say? Compared to the elated Su Haiyang, even Hao Yaoguang, a man of exceptional character and ability, was terrified upon hearing what had happened in the live broadcast. Today's broadcast had revealed that Suzette was a hidden academician. Regardless of the reason for not disclosing it publicly, keeping it hidden, this was a taboo for Hao Yaoguang, the director of the Beijing TV station. This behavior could have serious consequences. Losing his position as director would be the least of his worries. A slight misstep could mean losing his government job for several years, working as a sewing machine operator, or making lighters. Yet Su Haiyang seemed completely oblivious to this serious matter, even reveling in it. This caused Hao Yaoguang's impression of Su Haiyang to plummet. Director, what's wrong? Su Haiyang asked, expecting praise from Hao Yaoguang, but instead saw Hao Yaoguang's face turn extremely grim. Chapter 232 Can academician Su be measured in money? Hao Yaoguang was in an absolutely terrible mood. Could news that Su's heir was an academician even be broadcast? So much time had passed, and the information had spread so widely, those who needed to know already knew. There was no point in trying to suppress the news now. Zheng Haiyang was very uneasy seeing Hao Yaoguang like this. He knew that when Hao Yaoguang appeared like this, it meant he was extremely angry. Everyone at the TV station would tremble, afraid of accidentally provoking Hao Yaoguang. Now, feeling the deep pressure emanating from Hao Yaoguang, Zheng Haiyang spoke cautiously. He dared not say too much, afraid of saying the wrong thing. Just now you said that when the incident happened, someone suggested stopping the live broadcast, but you didn't agree. Hearing Hao Yaoguang's gloomy voice, Zheng Haiyang knew that he had made a mistake. The mistake was irreparable, so Zheng Haiyang could only nod and say, "Yes, director, someone did mention it, but director, I'm doing this for the station's benefit. Think about it, if the live broadcast had been stopped back then, there wouldn't have been the spectacular sight of 90 million people watching simultaneously. And there wouldn't be the exorbitant advertising fee of tens of millions per second for the private money program now." Since the mistake had already been made, Zheng Haiyang could only hope that his inner thoughts could undo it. However, Zheng Haiyang didn't realize that his explanation was worse than saying nothing at all. Are you sure you're doing this for the station's benefit? You're doing this for your own promotion, aren't you? Do you think someone like academician Suzette, a national treasure, can be measured in money? Do you just let the daily training and dissemination go in one ear and out the other? Hao Yaoguang, hearing Gao Luofei's explanation, snorted coldly and slammed the documents Zheng Haiyang had just taken out onto the table in front of him. Hearing Hao Yaoguang's accusations, Zheng Haiyang broke out in a cold sweat. After Hao Yaoguang's words, Zheng Haiyang finally understood why Hao Yaoguang was angry and hurriedly explained, "Director, no, I really didn't mean it that way." Zheng Haiyang spoke in a flustered and gesticulating manner, but Hao Yaoguang, utterly disappointed in him, wouldn't listen to his rambling explanations. "Alright, you can leave." Although Hao Yaoguang's tone wasn't as harsh as before, his emotions were relatively calm, and his voice wasn't as stern. Zheng Haiyang's heart was ice cold. Hao Yaoguang's meaning was simple: Zheng Haiyang was finished. Forget about promotion, even keeping his current position at finding hidden money was a pipe dream. His best-case scenario was probably staying at the Imperial Television Station, doing odd jobs. "Director Zheng, congratulations. I heard your program broke another record." "Director Zheng, just came from the station director's office. Are you getting a promotion?" "Director Zheng, you have to treat us to a meal if you get promoted. We're waiting for your promotion banquet." When Zheng Haiyang came out of the station director's office, his colleagues greeted him politely and with smiles. These words, which should have been a source of pride, now sounded like mockery to Zheng Haiyang. He forced a smile in response, said nothing, and left without a word. "What's wrong? Why are you unhappy? Who knows? Is he about to get promoted and doesn't care about us anymore?" But I vaguely heard the station director slamming his fist on the table just now. "What do you think happened?" After Zheng Haiyang left, Hao Yaoguang had no time to dwell on the mess Zheng Haiyang had made for him. He picked up his phone and called an old friend to see if there was any way to make amends. After all, this matter has caused such a stir online, yet there's no trace of any individual or department interfering. If that's the case, then perhaps things aren't as bad as he imagines, and there's still some room for remediation. "Hey, Lao Wang, how's it going lately?" Indeed, the friend Hao Yaoguang was looking for was Director Wang of the Confidentiality Department. When it comes to matters of confidentiality, contacting Director Wang, as the head of the Confidentiality Department, is naturally the best choice. After all, Director Wang naturally knows more or less about national confidential matters, and he certainly knows how serious Suze's situation is. "Lao Hao, shouldn't the director be at work right now? Why are you calling me?" "The two are old acquaintances, so there's no need for formalities. To be honest, Lao Wang, there really is something I need to ask you about today. The matter is urgent." So Hao Yaoguang chose to get straight to the point. "Old Hao, actually, before you called, I was already thinking about when you would call. Is what you wanted to ask about academician Su?" Yes, as expected of old Wang, you really can't hide this from me. I called you because of this." Hearing that Director Wang knew the purpose of his call, Hao Yaoguang breathed a sigh of relief. Since Director Wang knew about it and was still speaking so kindly, it probably wasn't as serious as he thought. Director Hao, I have to criticize you for this. How is your TV station doing its job? Shouldn't you have asked beforehand if it could be broadcast? You know the special nature of your TV station. It's fortunate it's academician Su, otherwise, this matter would have been difficult to handle. Hao Yaoguang naturally accepted Director Wang's criticism humbly. Old Wang, you're right. The station needs to tighten its grip on this recently. We can't afford to slack off. By the way, Old Wang, what's the matter with academician Su? Is there anything I can do? Chapter 233 states that the order above is not to interfere in academician Su's affairs. Old Hao, I don't actually know much about this. I had no idea that Su Zhe was an academician. Hearing Director Wang's words, Hao Yaoguang expressed disbelief. How could that be? You're the director of the confidentiality department. How could you not know about this? The director of the confidentiality department, a high-ranking official, not knowing about this matter, it just sounded absurd. I know you don't believe me, many people have asked me, but it's the truth. I had absolutely no idea that Su Zhe was an academician, and I haven't found any relevant information. You know that old Gao has always been dissatisfied with his son-in-law, right? Yes, I know. Although Hao Yaoguang wasn't that familiar with Gao Yuanshan, this matter was common knowledge in their circle, so Hao Yaoguang certainly knew. You know, the reason someone of Lao Gao's stature was so opposed to his daughter marrying Su Zhe was probably because he didn't know Su Zhe's academician status. You know Lao Gao's identity too. In certain fields, he knows just as much as I do. But he was completely unaware that Su Zhe was an academician. There's something else I can tell you. What happened this afternoon? I initially intended to intervene, but later, I received orders not to. Hearing these few words from Director Wang, Hao Yaoguang couldn't help but gasp. Although Director Wang didn't reveal who this person was, there weren't many people who could command him. It seemed Su Zhe's identity was truly extraordinary, capable of alarming someone of that level. While shocked, Hao Yaoguang naturally understood that Director Wang wasn't just gossiping. There was a deeper meaning behind it, and Hao Yaoguang was perfectly aware of it. If he couldn't even grasp this basic understanding, how could Hao Yaoguang possibly be the director of the Imperial Capital TV station? It's simply a matter of being careful to control the program's content and prevent similar incidents from happening again. Needless to say, Hao Yaoguang understood that Su Zhe was now an absolutely crucial figure in his mind. Even if Director Wang hadn't said anything, Hao Yaoguang would have arranged for someone he trusted to be the production manager of the program Finding Hidden Money. As for Zhang Haiyang, he was naturally out of the picture. He couldn't be allowed to continue in that position. Director Wang, don't worry, I understand. With the matter essentially resolved, Hao Yaoguang felt much less oppressed. Good that you understand, I won't say more. Old Gao always said he wanted an academician in his family. We used to joke about it all the time, but who would have thought he'd actually snag an academician son-in-law like Su Zhe by sheer luck. Old Gao knows Gao Luofei was on the show, and it's all thanks to your help. He asked me to take you to his place for a get-together. With such a successful son-in-law, I'm definitely going to treat him to a good drink, so don't hold back. Seeing that Hao Yaoguang understood what he meant, Director Wang stopped talking about it and started chatting with Hao Yaoguang about everyday things. Hearing what Director Wang said, Hao Yaoguang smiled excitedly and quickly agreed. Then please convey my gratitude to him, Old Wang, who was Gao Yuanshan. He was a military commander. How could Hao Yaoguang refuse the opportunity to get to know someone of Gao Yuanshan's caliber better? Although Director Wang said it was Gao Yuanshan who invited him, Hao Yaoguang didn't become arrogant because of that. He quickly and politely said to Director Wang, I'll pass on the message. Okay, I got a call, I'll hang up now. After hanging up, Hao Yaoguang felt refreshed. Now that he knew what happened this afternoon hadn't caused any major impact, he figured that once the big issues were resolved, the smaller ones naturally needed to be dealt with. The first priority was to replace the production manager of the variety show Finding Hidden Money. Shortly after, while people were envious of the explosive ratings of Finding Hidden Money and thought Zhang Haiyang was about to advance further, an appointment document for Zhang Haiyang appeared on the electronic platform of the Imperial television station. The appointment document arrived so fast, it seems the station director really values the program's explosive ratings. This efficiency is incredible. Director Zhang's future is bright. We should cultivate a good relationship with him. Wait, Look at the contents of the appointment document. While the office was buzzing with discussion about Zhang Haiyang's appointment, someone had already opened his appointment document. When they saw its contents, they were all incredulous. How could this be? Director Zhang wasn't promoted. Instead, he became a production assistant. Could it be a mistake? How could this happen? Shouldn't he have been promoted? Look, the sender is the station director, and it's even stamped. It must be genuine. This is happening so fast, I can't keep up. What's going on? Shouldn't he have been promoted? How did it turn out like this? The ratings were so high, and this is the result. While the staff at the Imperial Capital TV station were discussing the appointment document, the so-called rumors quickly spread like wildfire. Have you heard? Zhang Haiyang was dismissed because of what happened this afternoon. I heard too. They say Zhang Haiyang's actions had a terrible impact on Beijing TV and even threatened Academician Su's life. I heard some people tried to stop him, thinking it wasn't appropriate, but Zhang Haiyang insisted. If you ask me, that's how it should be. For ratings and advertising revenue, we can't be too reckless, right? Less advertising revenue is fine, but if something happens to a national treasure like Academician Su because of our TV station, it would be a disgrace to us. Chapter 234. A letter from Yi Yinglin's benefactor. After hearing the rumors, everyone at the Imperial television station expressed their understanding of Zhang Haiyang's dismissal. In their view, the station director's actions were normal. After all, working at a television station is different from other jobs, and the impact is far more severe and far-reaching. Although there weren't any major mishaps this time, what about next time? In a world where money is paramount, he'd inevitably crash and burn sooner or later. Giving Zhang Haiyang this punishment, in a sense, was actually a form of protection for him. Fifei, see you tomorrow. It was getting late, and Bingbing and her group reluctantly bid farewell and left Suze's house. After seeing Bingbing and her group off, only Suze and Gao Luofei remained in the villa. With no one else around, Gao Luofei, under Suze's gaze, ran to the sofa where he was sitting, jumped up, and straddled him. Her beautiful eyes stared intently at Suzette, from head to toe, inside and out. This action seemed to be an attempt to see through Suzette even more clearly. We've been married for so long, what haven't we seen? Why are you looking at me like that? Suzette chuckled as he looked at Gao Luofei's behavior. Yes, we've been married for so long, but that's Suzette. The person I'm looking at now is Academician Su. Academician Su, who just came of age and is already an academician. Husband, I really didn't expect you to be so amazing. This morning when Yinglin came, I felt so proud and happy that you were able to register as a young scientist. Who would have thought that in the end, being a young scientist meant nothing to you, but you're actually an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Husband, why are you so amazing? Listening to Gao Luofei's words, Suzette didn't interrupt her, but listened quietly, looking at her tenderly. Honey, this wallet is for you. You can use this new wallet from now on. After saying these words, Gao Luofei got up from Suzette and took a brand new, unopened Gucci wallet from a cloth bag placed by the door. So this is the wallet you bought for me. Suzette had been curious when he saw Gao Luofei bring back a Gucci shopping bag, but he didn't expect it to contain the wallet she had mentioned earlier. You little rascal. Suzette knew exactly what Gao Luofei was thinking. Suzette gently scratched the tip of Gao Luofei's nose with his finger, and then, under Gao Luofei's watchful gaze, took the contents of his old wallet and put them into the new one. All of Suze's actions were done under Gao Luofei's watchful eyes. Seeing this, Gao Luofei nodded. Before Suzette could react, she hugged his waist and said, Honey, you're so smart, and I'm so beautiful, so won't our future child be both cute and smart? Yes, definitely. Ideally, they'll be multi-talented, able to sing and dance like you, and like you, exceptionally intelligent, a genius inventor. Having said all that, Suzette and Gao Luofei naturally understood what to do. Strangely enough, despite their usual diligence, Gao Luofei's belly hadn't shown any signs of pregnancy for a year. They initially thought it was a health problem on either side, but after examinations, they found both were perfectly healthy. Faced with this situation, they could only conclude that it was simply a matter of timing. As the saying goes, diligence can make up for lack of talent. With such a good foundation, they naturally needed to work even harder. Yinglin. Happy birthday. This is your letter. When Yi Yinglin returned to her residence, she saw a middle-aged man in a green postman's uniform, his face slightly aged, greeting her and waving an envelope in his hand. "Thank you, uncle." After thanking him for his kindness, Yi Yinglan took the envelope from him. This man was Yi Yinglan's old neighbor. Their families had known each other for 30 years since Yi Yinglan's parents moved there. After Yi Yinglan's parents' accident, the neighbor, the uncle and aunt, took extra care of Yi Yinglan, treating her like a daughter. Later, when Yi Yinglan went abroad to study and couldn't return home, the aunt helped clean the house. "Yinglan, it's been 10 years now, and every year on your birthday, a letter arrives without fail. Have you heard from this kind person? Have you found them?" For 10 years, they kept calling. Before that, it only started the year after Yi Yinglan's family's tragedy. Hearing the uncle's question, Yi Yinglan replied, "Not yet, but I'm trying my best to find it. I believe I'll find it someday. Yes, we must find such a kind person." "Xiao Yi, your current achievements are largely thanks to this kind person," the neighbor uncle remarked with emotion. "Years ago, Yi Yinglan's family suffered an accident, their savings were depleted, and they couldn't even afford a tuition. Just when Yi Yinglan was about to give up, a kind person donated money to support her through her studies. From high school to university, they provided her with sufficient funds every year. Even when Yi Yinglan went abroad for further studies, although she had earned enough for her tuition through her own efforts, the kind person still gave her a considerable sum, enough to make her life better abroad. Over the years, the exact amount is unclear, but it's certainly substantial." In the neighbor uncle's eyes, such kind people are truly rare. "Uncle, I'm going home now." After saying goodbye to her neighbor, Yi Yinglan couldn't wait to take the envelope home. She was especially eager to see what her benefactor had written to her. Upon opening the envelope, she found the familiar, neat handwriting and fountain pen. Chapter 235, Breaking the Three Major Quantum Theories and Realizing Quantum Information Transmission. Besides the letter, Yi Yinglan also found a brand new USB drive. The handwriting was fluent and smooth, each stroke strong and powerful. The continuity between the characters and the spacing were just right, the page clean and neat, pleasing to the eye. The familiar handwriting made Yi Yinglan's face flush with excitement. Holding the top of the paper with both hands, her eyes focused intently as she began to read the letter word by word, afraid of missing a single word or paragraph. "Yinglan, today is your 25th birthday, and also the 10th anniversary of our acquaintance. Over the years, I have witnessed your hard work, and I feel extremely proud of your achievements." Reading these words from her benefactor in the letter, Yi Yinglan felt incredibly happy and proud. All her years of hard work had finally paid off, and she hadn't let her benefactor down. Although we've almost independently developed globally leading 5G technology, in my opinion, there's still a much larger area to explore in the mobile communications field. The USB drive accompanying this letter contains some of my thoughts on mobile communications. The relevant technical data is enclosed on the USB drive in the envelope. If you're interested in what I've mentioned, you can try to research it. If you're not interested, you can open the software with the black heart icon on the USB drive, enter the following password, and it will activate the self-destruct function. 10 years is an end. I won't write to you on your birthdays anymore, but don't worry, I'll definitely be watching over your growth. Well, in short, I wish Yinglan a happy, fulfilling, and successful life. With that, Yi Yinglan finished reading the letter. Seeing that her benefactor wouldn't write to her anymore, Yi Yinglan felt a pang of sadness. 10 years had passed, and she still hadn't found her benefactor, nor did she know who she was. Without her benefactor's annual letters, the search would be even more difficult. There was no way to change what had happened. She had to look forward. "My benefactor, rest assured, I will not let you down." After putting the letter back in the envelope, Yi Yinglan opened a drawer and neatly arranged the envelopes inside. Inside the drawer, stacked together, were 9 letters, cowhide envelopes of slightly different colors, worn with age. These were letters written to Yi Yinglan by her benefactor on her birthday 9 years prior. Since they had been properly delivered, there must have been an address on the envelope. Yi Yinglan had even tried to find the address there. However, she found the address to be in a dilapidated place, with no trace of her benefactor. After placing the 10th letter, Yi Yinglan picked up a USB drive, plugged it into the computer, and began accessing the information on it. A deep analysis of the principles of quantum communication based on uncertainty, measurement collapse, and no cloning, namely, breaking through existing quantum encryption communication and realizing the possibility of quantum information transmission. Yi Yinglan never expected that the technical information her benefactor gave her would be about quantum communication technology, which is now extremely advanced and has only just begun to be explored. To be precise, quantum communication technology is more accurately described as quantum encryption technology. Because quantum mechanics is random, traditional communication methods are needed to transmit tools that can decipher these quantum states to transmit information. Simply put, if the quantum state is 0 or 1, and the user transmits the number 110, while the receiving end sends 01010, then the tools transmitted via traditional communication can determine the received information as XX. In this way, the receiving end can understand the information. However, since it relies on traditional communication, the transmission speed is naturally the same. The only difference is that quantum communication technology improves the security of information transmission. Because of this understanding, upon seeing the title of the document, Yi Yinglan realized that the technology her benefactor had given her was meant to break the current limitations of quantum communication. While the idea was bold and groundbreaking, Yi Yinglan was skeptical about its feasibility. After all, as far as she knew, this technology was currently impossible to achieve, or rather, beyond the reach of current technology. Despite her doubts, since it was a document from her benefactor, Yi Yinglan decided to read it. Even if it seemed absurd, it was a benevolent absurdity. Opening the folder revealed a large number of files, a total of 102. Looking at so many files, Yi Yinglan could see the effort her benefactor had put in. Opening the first summary file, Yi Yinglan began to read. And as she read, her expression slowly changed, becoming serious and solemn. The document her benefactor had given her actually had practical application. The more she read, the more alarmed she became. This was no longer just exploration, it had proposed a completely new theory. According to the theory's description, if it were verified, then quantum-based teleportation would be realized. After reading it, Yi Yinglan understood just how precious this document was. No, this document is too important, it can't stay with me. If this document fell into the hands of other forces, it would bring enormous disaster. Hello, Professor, I have a very important document here, about quantum teleportation. After the call connected, Yi Yinglan briefly explained what she had read to Chen Yang. Coincidentally, Chen Yang was still at academician Yang Shengli's home at that moment, and Yang Shengli overheard what Yi Yinglan said. Chapter 236. The benefactor was none other than Suzette, who sponsored a total of 109 people. Quantum communication falls under the broader field of mobile communication, a field they excel in. When Yi Yinglan spoke of the latest quantum theories, their eyes narrowed, their gazes turning grave. This information was far more surprising than seeing Zulin's communication technology that afternoon or learning that Suzette had become an academician at the age of 18. If realized, this could completely revolutionize the field, even more dramatically than Zulin's technology. After all, Zulin was based on traditional information transmission channels, but this technology could directly create a new fast track. Xiao Yi, did you come up with this yourself? Chen Yang asked uncertainly. Professor, you misunderstand. It wasn't me, but my benefactor who gave it to me, Yi Yinglan quickly replied, seeing the professor misunderstanding. The benefactor who funded you, Chen Yang was certain he would vet members for his research group. Therefore, he was aware of Yi Yinglan's personal and family circumstances. But today's events were completely unexpected. How could a kind person who sponsored Yi Yinglan propose such a technical theory? What's wrong with this world? How come so many people are suddenly more professional than them? Yes, Professor, this USB drive was in an envelope and just arrived in my hands not long ago. Hearing what Yi Yinglan said, Yang Shengli and Chen Yang were stunned, their faces twitching. Holy crap, is this for real? Such an important hard drive was sent by express delivery. If it encountered a rough courier and got bumped, knocked, or even damaged on the way, the loss would be huge. Yang Shengli and Chen Yang both had an urge to interview Yi Yinglan's benefactor to find out what he was thinking. Xiao Yi, is your benefactor an expert in the field of mobile communications or quantum mechanics? To propose such an advanced theory, he must have profound knowledge in this related field. Professor, I'm not too sure about that. I have no information about my benefactor. Alright, this matter must not be spread. Quickly contact the Academy of Sciences and have them send someone to escort a USB drive in Xiaoyi's hands. The pleasantries could wait. The most crucial thing now was to escort a USB drive from Zhongdu City back to Dido City. What? Another escort? When Guoan and Wu Hua returned to their respective bases and were about to rest, they both received calls from their superiors. Upon learning that they were to escort another USB drive, their reactions were uniformly surprised. This had happened so many times in the past few days. What was going on in Zhongdu City? How had such a drastic change suddenly occurred? Wu Hua was alright. This was only the second time. But for Guoan, this was the fourth time. Soon after, the escort's information and location were sent to Wu Hua and Guoan. When they saw the information about the person to be escorted, Wu Hua and Guoan were both stunned. They were naturally aware of the major events that had occurred today. They were naturally familiar with Yi Yinglin's appearance. They hadn't expected that the items they were escorting would be in her possession. This connected to Suzette, and the thought that these escorted items were also related to Suzette made them suspect that these items might also belong to him. Director Wang, the items we're escorting, could they have been found by Suzette again? No, this time the situation is different. It has nothing to do with Suzette. Hearing Guoan's question, Director Wang gave an affirmative reply. Although the escorts were very frequent, Wu Hua and Guoan, fully prepared, left the base together and headed towards their destination, Yi Yinglin's home. This time, because the news of the escort was kept very secret, the mission was relatively easy. Wu Hua and Guoan each took only 2 cars and carried out the mission discreetly. Meanwhile, the Zhongdu City Airport, upon learning of the urgent escort mission, immediately began making arrangements. With so many consecutive missions, the airport management was almost overwhelmed. One important mission a day, who could guarantee that nothing would go wrong? Zhongdu City doesn't only have this one airport, there's also Xingxi Airport. Why not go there? Even so, the mission still needed to be completed. The journey was smooth, and they arrived at Zhongdu City Airport without any major incidents. Yi Yinglin then boarded the plane, heading towards the capital. Meanwhile, after Gao Luofei fell into deep sleep, Suzette put on a bathrobe and went to his study. He entered and gently locked the door. Standing before the large mahogany table, Suzette took out paper and pen from a hidden compartment, hesitated briefly, and then began writing a letter. Suzette's writing was fluent and efficient. Soon, the blank paper was filled with considerable content. Zhao, today is your 25th birthday, and also the 8th year since we met. Over the years, I've seen your hard work, and I feel extremely proud of your achievements, but if Yi Yinglin were here, she would notice that this letter, in both content and handwriting, was exactly the same as hers. Indeed, Yi Yinglin's benefactor was Suzette. Suzette had been sponsoring children like Yi Yinglin, who had lost their families or were from extremely poor backgrounds, for 10 years. Over the years, Suzette remembered sponsoring a total of 109 students. They varied in age, the youngest being 9 years old, and the oldest being 28, even older than Suzette himself. Suzette remembered each of their names, birthdays, and their experiences over the years. Although they might not be as outstanding as Yi Yinglin, they were still among the best of their age and had their own things to be proud of. Soon, after writing and sealing the letter, Suzette casually tossed it aside, and a mechanical bird appeared in the study, picked up the envelope in its beak, and flew away into the distance. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 8,000 problems await Suzette's solving. This technical data on the Phoenix is so hard to understand. I recognize all the words, but when they're put together, I just can't make sense of it. I can't understand this either. I'd better report this problem as soon as possible. Although night was falling, the Phoenix research base was still brightly lit. Whether it was scientific luminaries like Li Jianguo and Han Sangwen, or ordinary researchers, everyone was enthusiastically processing the technical data assigned to them. However, despite their high enthusiasm, the practical technical difficulties didn't decrease. Perhaps due to the vast scope of the data, progress in reading the Phoenix's technical data was extremely slow. Every new term was either unclear or completely unfamiliar. Even after reading the annotations, some parts remained unclear. Since these problems couldn't be solved, the researchers in each area could only report them to their team leaders, who would then forward them one by one, waiting for a solution. When these questions were gathered, Even seasoned academicians like Li Jianguo, with their extensive experience, could only explain some of the issues raised by their researchers. Others, however, were unclear even to them, let alone definitively explained through discussion. For those that couldn't be resolved or explained, Li Jianguo and his team compiled them and sent them to Fuxing's email address. After finishing the email, Su Zhe turned on his computer, logged into the platform, and began to understand the situation of the Phoenix Research Group. Based on the reports from the heads of the 8 research areas, Su Zhe gained a clear understanding of the progress of the Phoenix research. Because it was the first day, and various matters needed to be sorted out before research could begin, there wasn't much to report. However, regarding difficult issues, although it was the first day, each research area raised a considerable number of questions, roughly 100, awaiting Su Zhe's resolution. Although there were many questions, they weren't particularly profound. Most stemmed from a sudden leap in technological advancement, creating a significant gap between current and advanced technologies. This situation made it difficult to understand and absorb some of the definitions, explanations, principles, and theorems that were originally easy to grasp. The knowledge was quite obscure and difficult to comprehend, raising many questions. In fact, if they had thoroughly studied the technical data related to the initial mechas, while there would be reading difficulties, the number of questions would not be so high. However, if they were to do that, it would take them at least 1 to 2 years to digest the information, which time frame didn't allow. Therefore, these questions were left to Su Zhe to handle. For Su Zhe, although there were many questions and the scope was very diverse, he could explain them clearly in language they could understand with just a glance. There were about 1,000 questions in total. Having listed the questions, Su Zhe began to solve them. The clattering of the keyboard echoed in the study. Husband. At this moment, in the master bedroom, Gao Luofei, who was fast asleep, felt her arms were empty, her familiar haven gone. She subconsciously opened her eyes and saw that Su Zhe's figure had disappeared beside her. Rubbing her sleepy eyes, Gao Luofei tentatively called out a few times, but no one responded. Looking back at the time, it was already 2 o'clock. Where is he? It's so late. Gao Luofei rubbed her disheveled hair, her delicate, white feet emerging from under the covers as she slipped on the slippers by the bed and left the bedroom, searching for Su Zhe. In the quiet night, Gao Luofei faintly heard the sound of typing. Following the sound, she found it coming from Su Zhe's study. 2 o'clock, what is my husband doing? Gao Luofei's sleepiness had already lessened while searching for Su Zhe. Now, she was fully awake. Just as Gao Luofei reached the study door and was about to open it, the door opened before she could grasp the handle. The person who opened the door was none other than Su Zhe. Su Zhe had resolved these problems in a little over an hour, less than 2 hours. After finishing, seeing that it was exactly 2 a.m., Su Zhe shut down his computer and went back to sleep with his beloved wife. The light from the study shone through the crack in the door, illuminating Gao Luofei and dispelling some of the darkness around her. Late at night, Su Zhe opened the door and saw a long-haired woman standing quietly in the darkness. Fortunately, the light revealed her to be his beautiful wife, otherwise, Su Zhe would have thought it was a ghost. After all, besides a ghost, who could possibly breach Su Zhe's security system? Wife, what are you doing standing here? Su Zhe asked, looking at Gao Luofei with suspicion. That's what I should be asking you. It's already 2 a.m., what are you doing in the study? Gao Luofei looked at Su Zhe and the study behind him suspiciously. Nothing much, just some work-related matters. Work? Didn't you already quit your job, honey? Don't forget, Yaoli Glass Group is our family's business. I'm just handling some group matters. Really? Yes, honey, come on, let's go back to sleep. Without waiting for Gao Luofei to say anything more, Su Zhe picked her up in a princess carry and headed towards the bedroom before she could even react. The study light automatically turned off after Su Zhe left. You have a new email, please check. Meanwhile, at the Phoenix Research Group's base, the academicians from various disciplines, seeing that it was getting late, had just turned off their office lights when they heard a system notification from their computers. Why would there be an email so late? Although puzzled, the academicians still turned the lights back on and checked their emails for the newly received files. Chapter 238, with so many problems, it will definitely take 2 days to resolve the revival. It's from Fuxing. Seeing that it was an email from Fuxing, they immediately opened it without hesitation. They then discovered that the email contained the questions they had sent to Fuxing. Clicking on them, They saw that their questions had been significantly expanded. After quickly reading the first few questions, these academicians and experts realized that all their questions to Fuchsing had been answered. Fuchsing's answers to these questions were in his familiar style. The text was very easy to understand, even for university students just starting out in the field. Old Li, I'm not going back. You go back first. Lu Xiangqiu had originally planned to go back to sleep with Li Jianguo, but now that he saw that Fuchsing had solved his questions, he had no desire to rest. Lu Xiangqiu simply told Li Jianguo to go to sleep while he continued his research. Almost exactly a few seconds after Lu Xiangqiu sent this message, he received a reply from Li Jianguo. I was just about to tell you I wasn't going back. Did Fuchsing send you the solutions to your problems? Li Jianguo saw Lu Xiangqiu's message and then looked at the files Fuchsing had sent him on his computer. He immediately understood. It seemed Fuchsing had also sent Lu Xiangqiu the solutions. Just as Li Jianguo expected, Lu Xiangqiu sent a surprise message. Does that mean Fuchsing sent them to you too? Yes. Soon after, Lu Xiangqiu saw a message from Hans Hengwan in their leadership group chat. Team leader Fuchsing told me that the answers to your questions have been sent to your email addresses. Please check. Looking at Hans Hengwan's message, everything was clear. Their questions had been perfectly resolved by Fuchsing. All the technology related to the Phoenix was provided by Fuchsing alone. For Fuchsing, answering these rather naive questions was certainly not difficult. But the speed of the response was also fast. All 1003 questions were resolved in less than 2 hours. This meant that Fuchsing had an unimaginable level of understanding of the Phoenix technology. In a sense, Li Jianguo and his team reached a startling conclusion. If Fuchsing hadn't been a single person, and if turning theoretical knowledge into the real Phoenix required a significant amount of time, they wouldn't have needed to participate at all. Now that the problem was solved, Li Jianguo and his team broke down the answers provided by Fuchsing and distributed them to their respective research groups, instructing them to start their research the next morning with the answers. Zhao Fangfang, how many questions did you ask? Our weapons division asked a total of 125 questions. Dong Jiatong, the researcher in charge of materials research, asked Zhao Fangfang from her bed. Although they weren't in the same research division, there weren't many women in the entire research base, only 6 in total. These 6 were paired up and live together, and Zhao Fangfang happened to be assigned to the same accommodation as Dong Jiatong. We asked 119 questions. The technical data on the materials is really difficult. We can't understand a lot of it because we haven't studied this area before, I asked others, and our weapons division asked a total of 123 questions. I estimate the other divisions asked even more, so it's probably around 1,000 questions. How long do you think it will take for team leader Fuchsing to solve these problems? I think at least 2 or 3 days. Hearing Zhao Fangfang's words, Dong Jiatong also guessed about that. After all, it involves 8 divisions, and the technical problems that need to be solved are quite complex. If we can solve them in 2 or 3 days, that's already a fast pace. Let's work harder tomorrow and figure out the relevant technical data as soon as possible so we can officially start manufacturing. Although they were given 2 months to familiarize themselves with the technical data, the sooner they understand it, the sooner they can see the birth of the Phoenix and its heroic figure. Moreover, laser weapons are a completely new technology, so they need to work even harder to prove their strength. Just as Dong Jiatong finished speaking, her phone rang. Upon opening it, she saw that Lu Xiangqiu had sent a document to their laser research group. The Fuchsing group leader has solved all the problems you raised. The answers are here. Please sign for it. Let's work harder tomorrow and get back on track as soon as possible. 5.16 Problem Answers Docs. Received. Teacher. Dong Jiatong replied immediately in the group and then clicked download. Jiatong, is anyone still sending messages in your group so late, within this research base? For absolute secrecy, they were not allowed to connect to the outside network. Therefore, smartphones, besides being used as internal communication tools, didn't have much use to them. Since the phone rang, it must be an internal message. It's my teacher. He said the Fuchsing group leader has solved all the problems we raised. Hearing Dong Jiatong's words, Zhao Fangfang's face showed surprise. So fast? Only 2 hours and they've solved 125 problems. Team leader Fuchsing is quick. It's beyond our expectations. That's true. The technical data for the Phoenix was provided by team leader Fuchsing, so the speed is understandable. Looking at it this way, by noon tomorrow at the latest, Team leader Fuxing should be able to provide an answer to our materials zoning issue. Just as Zhao Fangfang finished speaking, her phone rang. Looking at the message, she saw it was from academician Li Jianguo, and the content was very similar to the message Dong Jiatong had received. Jiatong, team leader Fuxing has also solved our problem. Chapter 239, completely resolved in just 2 hours? Jiatong, did you know? All the questions we raised have been resolved by team leader Fuxing. Zhao Fangfang then learned from others that the questions from other districts had also been resolved by Fuxing simultaneously. It only took 2 hours at most. 1,000 questions solved just like that. That's incredibly efficient. Jiatong, I've finally seen what a true master looks like. Not to mention Zhao Fangfang, Dong Jiatong was no less surprised when she heard this news. However, Fuxing's demonstrated ability also proved to some extent that the Phoenix Mecha relay was created by Fuxing. Fangfang, you rest first, I'll go check for a while longer. Since Lu Xiangqiu had entrusted her with a laser weapon, Dong Jiatong naturally didn't want to mess it up, otherwise it would be difficult to explain. Now that the questions had been answered, Dong Jiatong planned to check for an hour or two before going to sleep. Hey, Jiatong, what time is it? It's so late. Zhao Fangfang saw that Dong Jiatong had still closed the dormitory door and left after hearing what she said. Seeing this, Zhao Fangfang didn't sleep anymore, but sat up in bed and started getting dressed. Those chosen were all people with strong willpower and self-control, and all unwilling to fall behind, possessing a strong competitive spirit. Dong Jiatong was now the team leader in charge of the entire laser weapon research team, strictly speaking, a level higher than Zhao Fangfang. It was one thing if she hadn't seen it. But now that she had, how could Zhao Fangfang possibly sleep peacefully? When Zhao Fangfang arrived at the materials area, she saw it brightly lit. Entering the office area, she saw 5 colleagues already at their workstations. After nodding and greeting them, Zhao Fangfang sat back down and began her research. Chirp chirp chirp, at dawn, accompanied by the chirping of birds at the window and the sound of beaks pecking at the glass, SSS slowly opened his eyes. Immediately, the system notification sounded again in his ears. Ding, today's technology points settlement. The host has contributed 55,467 technology points, bringing the host's current technology points to 155,679. Seeing that his technology points had reached 150,000, Suzer once again began browsing through the system's knowledge base. Suzer hadn't noticed before, but yesterday's events made him realize that Gao Luofei had a strong obsession with having a child. If she didn't particularly want a child, why would she be so diligent? Since their physical examinations showed no problems, it meant that existing technology couldn't solve their current situation. So Suzer decided to check the system's inventory to see if there was a technology suitable for his and Gao Luofei's current situation. After all, Suzer had exchanged medical technology from the inventory more than once or twice. The results had always been incredibly remarkable. The warehouse contained an overwhelming amount of technology, densely packed and countless. Even after using the search function to pinpoint keywords, there were still hundreds of pages of technology related to fertility. Persistence paid off. After some browsing, Suzer finally found a technology he could use in a corner of the warehouse: fertility optimization capsule technology. Utilizing the Tang substance, it stimulates the body's potential, releasing the most genetically superior reproductive cells, achieving 100% conception. According to the description, this fertility optimization capsule can solve any current infertility issues caused by physical problems, without any physical harm, a true boon. This so-called capsule isn't a pill. Strictly speaking, it's a biological capsule, a compartment that can accommodate both partners. However, when Suzer saw the required technology points, he knew he wouldn't be able to acquire it anytime soon. The technology points required to exchange for this technology reached 2 million, double the 1 million required for the Phoenix Mech. 50,000 points a day, looks like he'd have to work harder. Honey, sleep a little longer. Just as Suzer quietly prepared to get up, Gao Luofei, who was half asleep and sensed his movement, hugged him tightly. Seeing that Gao Luofei hadn't even opened her eyes, Suzer chuckled and didn't get up, but continued to lie in bed, watching Gao Luofei fall into deep sleep. Bing Bing, you should know what happened at the station yesterday, right? Early in the morning, when Bing Bing finished washing up and was about to leave to continue her live broadcast, she received a call from Hao Yaoguang, the director of the Beijing TV station. Although Bingbing was a famous host and had met Hao Yaoguang several times, this was the first time Hao Yaoguang had called her personally, making Bingbing feel somewhat flattered. As for what Hao Yaoguang was talking about, such a big matter, especially concerning her own program, was something Bingbing was well aware of. I understand, Director, Bingbing, I know about your relationship with Gao Luofei and Academician Su, so I plan to appoint you as the production manager for this program. From now on, you can make all the decisions regarding the program yourself. Hao Yaoguang's decision was naturally the result of careful consideration. From any perspective, Bingbing was the best candidate. Don't worry, Director, I will definitely do a good job. The appointment naturally put a lot of pressure on her, but Bingbing understood that her current popularity didn't guarantee continued success. Rather than relying on her youth, Bingbing naturally planned to develop at a higher level. Seeing Bingbing's confidence, Hao Yaoguang was relieved. After Hao Yaoguang hung up the phone, Bingbing started her live stream. Good morning, everyone. Yinglan was originally supposed to be a guest on our program today, but she had something come up last night and went to the capital, so she can't be a guest today. After seeing more than 100 viewers flood into the live stream, Bingbing explained to everyone. Chapter 247 Pills Pharmaceuticals should be a large conglomerate with a market value of tens of billions. Yi Yinglan had told Bingbing about this last night before boarding the plane to Beijing, so that Bingbing and the others could make the necessary preparations in advance and find a guest for tomorrow's program. Yi Yinglan also apologized for not being able to participate in the program. Although Yi Yinglan wanted to continue participating, the situation was urgent, and the importance of quantum communication technology was self-evident, so she had to give up the opportunity. When the viewers in the live broadcast heard this news from Bingbing, they were slightly disappointed. I was just thinking of seeing Yi Yinglan expose Suze's identity today. Why isn't she here? Did she go to the capital? She's in such a hurry. Looks like something important has happened, since expert Yi is gone. Let's wish her all the best. In that case, who's our new expert today? I can't wait to see the new expert. I hope she's a beautiful female expert too. Damn, does it have to be so real? The one before, didn't you just say you wouldn't watch the show without expert Yi? Sure enough, you change your mind so quickly. Regarding the audience's mention of the new expert, Bingbing said, as for the new expert, I won't reveal it in advance. I can only tell you that she is someone you would never imagine. Alright, that's enough. Let's pack up and get ready to go to Fifu's house. I still remember Suze's bank card with his state allowance, but I haven't checked the balance yet. Hearing what Bingbing said, the audience in the live stream was also stirred up. Finding Academician Su's hidden stash of money is what makes me happiest right now. I must make sure all of Academician Su's hidden stash is found. Quick, check the website of the Imperial TV station. Bingbing has actually become the production director. I checked, it's true. The original production director was dismissed last night for making a mistake. Bingbing got promoted. Does that mean the host of the program will be changed? No, we can't replace Bingbing. Right, Bingbing, you can't move behind the scenes. Bingbing, dressed neatly, reassured the viewers after seeing the reactions in the live stream. Don't worry, I'm still the host. As long as this program airs, I'll always have opportunities. The viewers in the live stream were very happy to receive Bingbing's affirmative answer. Ding dong. When Suze and Gao Luofei finished breakfast and cleaned up the dishes, the doorbell rang. At this time, with this familiar ringing frequency, it could only be Bingbing. They had become too familiar with each other after spending so many days together. Upon seeing that it was indeed Bingbing outside the door, Gao Luofei immediately opened the door and let her in. Bingbing, why are you alone? Where's Yinglan? When Gao Luofei saw only Bingbing through the camera earlier, she assumed Yi Yinglan wasn't in the camera's view. But now that Yi Yinglan was inside, and still not in sight, Gao Luofei asked. Hearing Gao Luofei's question, Bingbing explained, Yinglan suddenly had some free time and flew to the capital yesterday. She originally intended to tell you herself, but she couldn't get through to you on the phone, so she asked me to relay the message. Hearing Bingbing's explanation, Gao Luofei was somewhat disappointed, but didn't say anything. As for why the call went through so quickly, the timing was obvious. Bingbing was the new expert for finding the hidden stash of money. Since Yi Yinglan wasn't coming, they should definitely arrange for another expert to find the hidden stash of money. The expert who was supposed to come with Bingbing was surprisingly absent, which piqued Gao Luofei's curiosity. Hearing Gao Luofei's question, Bingbing replied, "It's a secret. The person will be here soon. You'll know once they arrive." "You know this person?" Seeing Bingbing's mysterious demeanor, Gao Luofei, like everyone else, was filled with intense curiosity. Who exactly was this new expert? "President, your expansion approval hasn't been granted by the boss." Inside the president's office of Seven Pillars Pharmaceuticals in a landmark building in the capital city, a woman dressed in a white shirt, gray casual pants, and red-soled black patent leather high heels, her beautiful legs crossed, toes pointed upwards, sat quietly in a leather executive chair, listening to her secretary's report. When the secretary informed President Chu Mingayao of this news, Chu Mingayao's face darkened considerably. "What's the reason?" Chu Mingayao asked. "President, it's the same reason as before. The boss said the company currently doesn't have enough funds for expansion." "Alright, I understand. You can go now." After hearing what Chu Mingayao said, the secretary hurriedly left the president's office. Once the secretary left, Chu Mingayao exploded. "Our current production capacity is severely lagging behind customer demand. Expanding and building a factory, although it would require a one-time payment of up to 500 million, would allow us to recoup our costs in less than a year, given our product profits and demand." Why won't they agree? No money, no money, no money. Although the company's products are subject to very low prices due to their special nature, they still generate a lot of revenue daily. Even after deducting R&D expenses, we should have at least 400 to 500 million in surplus annually. How can we not have money? I bet the money went into their own pockets, and they're unwilling to take it out. At this moment, Chu Mingayao felt utterly disheartened. After returning to China, Seven Pills Pharmaceuticals was the first company Chu Mingayao joined. In just 3 years, she worked her way up to the position of president. Chu Mingayao had a strong understanding of Seven Pills Pharmaceuticals. In Chu Mingayao's view, the most fundamental shortcoming of Seven Pills Pharmaceuticals is its insufficient production capacity. Once the production capacity catches up, it will not be a medium-sized group with an external valuation of around 1 billion, but a large group with a market value of over 10 billion. Chapter 241 Boss, if you don't reply in a minute, I'll take that as a yes. Everything was planned out, and Chu Mingayao was full of confidence. However, when she finally reported to her boss, she was simply dismissed with a no-money statement. This was the third time this had happened, including today. Although each proposal was more detailed and persuasive than the last, Chu Mingayao didn't understand what her boss was thinking, he just wouldn't agree. With her boss disagreeing, Chu Mingayao could only anxiously wait, completely helpless. Songzhou, what are you thinking? I really want to crack open your brain and see what kind of structure it is that gave birth to such a thing as you. I'm offering you money, and you won't even take it." Indeed, Chu Mingayao's boss was Songzhou. Since it was Songzhou, it was obvious that Seven Pills Pharmaceuticals was also Suze's company. Chu Mingayao cursed as she pleased, but that was all she could do was vent. Since her boss didn't want to make money, she could only watch helplessly. What can I do to make Songzhou see the light? Chu Mingayao still didn't want to give up on her plan. She couldn't allow her first time as a CEO to end in such a failure. Songzhou, that's right, Suzette. Chu Mingayao thought of Suzette. If she couldn't get through to Songzhou, she might as well try Suzette. Since Suzette could get Songzhou to manage such a large enterprise as Yaoli Glass Group, the two must be very good friends. Maybe talking to Suzette would have a miraculous effect, regardless of whether it works or not. With all the news these past few days, Chu Mingayao naturally knew what had happened to Suzette. After learning that Suzette's wife was actually Gao Luofei, Chu Mingayao wanted to meet Suzette. After learning today that Suzette was also an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Chu Mingayao was even more eager to see what kind of person could make someone as proud as Gao Luofei so infatuated. However, thinking about her delicate relationship with Gao Luofei, she wasn't sure if she could even get in the door if she went rashly. Chu Mingayao felt her phone vibrate on her desk. She picked it up and saw it was Bingbing calling, so she answered immediately. Although Chu Mingayao studied abroad for university, she, Bingbing, and Gao Luofei were in the same high school. However, unlike Bingbing and Gao Luofei, she was in the class next door. It was fate, perhaps a coincidence, that she and Bingbing had a very harmonious relationship in high school, while their relationship with Gao Luofei was quite awkward. In youth, there were always school beauty and school hunk contests, and Chu Mingayao's looks were comparable to Gao Luofei's. Originally indifferent to the title of school beauty, the two of them, influenced by their surroundings and the people around them, subtly began to compete, unwilling to be inferior to each other. This was the source of their awkward relationship. Mingyao, how have you been lately? Is it great being the CEO? Bingbing had just received news from Yi Yinglin that Yi Yinglin was going to the capital and couldn't continue as a guest on the program. Thinking about how short the time was and the fact that the show's guests hadn't been finalized yet, Bingbing, feeling frustrated and unable to get through to Gao Luofei on the phone, muttered to herself that it wasn't even evening yet, and went to find Chu Mingyao to vent. Oh, even though I'm the CEO, I still have a boss above me. He keeps disagreeing with the plans I've proposed. It's so frustrating. I was even thinking of getting someone to put a sack over his head and beat him up. Ha ha ha, that's so you. Others might just talk about it, but you definitely actually do it. Back in high school, Chu Mingyao was bullied by the head of her grade, and she jokingly warned him to watch out, lest he get a sack over his head and be beaten up. Everyone thought she was joking, but after the head of the grade actually got a sack over his head and beaten up, everyone's impression of Chu Mingyao immediately changed. She was a woman of her word. Although the incident was eventually dropped due to lack of evidence, it earned Chu Mingyao a lot of admiration at school. Bingbing, your show is so popular, you should be happy. What's wrong? You sound really down. Don't mention it, it's about the show. You know, I'm currently on a show called Finding Hidden Money with Fifei. The expert was supposed to come tomorrow, but he has an urgent matter to attend to tonight and has to go to the capital, so he can't participate tomorrow. I'm really worried about this. Bingbing was just chatting. She wasn't expecting Chu Mingyao to solve anything for her. However, Bingbing's words suddenly opened Chu Mingyao's mind, and her eyes lit up. Bingbing, can I be an expert on the show? If she became an expert, Chu Mingyao could then conveniently go to Gao Luofei's house. As an expert, since she couldn't do much against Songzhou, taking revenge on Songzhou's good friend Suzette and finding his hidden money would be a good way to vent her anger. You? A CEO like you coming to participate in a program? Are you sure the company boss will let you go? I haven't had a break in 2 years. What's wrong with taking a few days off? Just tell me if it's okay or not. Bingbing was quite surprised by Chu Mingyao's decision. Okay, it's okay. Aren't you in the capital right now? I'll take an early flight tomorrow morning. Okay, it's settled then. See you tomorrow. After confirming, Chu Mingyao called her secretary and said, book me the earliest flight to Zhongdu City tomorrow. After making the arrangements, Chu Mingyao also sent an email directly to Songzhou's email address. Boss, I'd like to ask for a few days off to relax. If you don't reply in a minute, I'll take it as my agreement. Songzhou had so many emails, how could he process them all so quickly? In this way, through a semi-forced leave request, Chu Mingyao's itinerary was set. Chapter 242. It's impossible for a CEO as powerful as Chu Mingyao to come, right? A plane from the capital city slowly came to a stop on the runway. After the plane landed, the passengers disembarked in an orderly fashion. Among them, a young woman in her early 20s, wearing sunglasses, stood out from the hurried crowd with her beautiful clothes and radiant aura. This woman was none other than Chu Mingyao, who had agreed to participate in the program. Early that morning, Chu Mingyao had taken a plane from the capital city to Zhongdu City. After Chu Mingyao exited the boarding gate, a man approached her. This man was the driver, naturally arranged by Bingbing. We'll have to wait a while, let's watch some TV first. Bingbing knew from a text message that Chu Mingyao had just gotten into the car she arranged and that it would take nearly an hour to get there. Sitting there would be boring, so she suggested watching TV to pass the time. Turn on the TV. As soon as Gao Luofei finished speaking, the TV, which had been off, turned on automatically. This action froze Bingbing, who had just stood up from the sofa. Wasn't my action just now pretty lame? Bingbing complained, watching the news on TV. The viewers in the live stream burst into laughter at Bingbing's behavior and comment. Ha ha ha, so embarrassing, I'm practically picking my toes from embarrassment, don't even mention it. This way of doing it is like watching ancient people, the difference is huge, so cool, I really want this system too. Since it was a program from the Imperial Capital TV station, naturally, she had to watch the Imperial Capital channel. Having just switched to the Imperial Capital TV station, the news broadcast caught Bingbing's attention. This month, 7 Pills Pharmaceuticals, as an outstanding emerging pharmaceutical company in Imperial City, announced that its newly appointed female president, Chu Mingao, plans to transform 7-Pills Pharmaceuticals into a new pharmaceutical company with a market value of tens of billions, benefiting the health of citizens, within 3 years. What a coincidence. Chu Mingao was going to participate in a program today, and the TV was reporting her information. Chu Mingao is so beautiful, she looks so young, I noticed her a long time ago. Chu Mingao is definitely the most beautiful female CEO in the country. I wonder how the new expert compares to Chu Mingao. I'd be satisfied if you were half as beautiful as Chu Mingao. After getting into the car, Chu Mingao looked at the magnificent scenery of Zhongdu City outside the car window, her eyes vacant and unfocused, lost in thought. Ms. Chu, we've arrived. Time flew by, and when the driver arrived at Suze's house, he woke the still unresponsive Chu Mingao. After hearing the driver's call, Chu Mingao came to her senses, said thank you, and got out of the car. After getting out of the car, Chu Mingao saw the familiar villa seen in the live broadcast room and walked straight into the villa. After confirming that the villa's address was indeed Gao Luofei's, Chu Mingao rang the doorbell. Inside the villa, Bingbing, who already knew that Chu Mingao had been picked up, knew that Chu Mingao must have arrived when she heard the doorbell. Fifei, the expert is here, I'll go open the door. With that, Bingbing got up from the sofa and dashed towards the door. Suze and Gao Luofei, hearing Bingbing's words, followed behind her with curiosity. Who exactly was today's expert on the show? The expert's here. I wonder if they're good-looking. Hey, can you stop being so superficial? You should at least look at the expert's professional skills. What's wrong? Wouldn't it be more entertaining if the expert were a beautiful and wealthy woman? Don't you like to pretty girls? That's all I like. Isn't that enough? Mingao, long time no see. You've become even more beautiful. Upon reaching the door and seeing Chu Mingao wearing black sunglasses, Bingbing immediately stepped forward and hugged her tightly. You too. Your skin is getting better and better, much better than before, let me tell you. Fei doesn't know you're coming yet. She'll be so happy to see you later. With that, Bingbing pulled Chu Mingao into Suze's house. When Gao Luofei saw Chu Mingao enter, she understood why Bingbing had looked so different this morning. Chu Mingao and Gao Luofei's eyes met briefly, then looked away again. Chu Mingao's gaze then fell on Suze standing beside Gao Luofei. She was going to get a revenge on Suze today. In Suze's eyes, Chu Mingao was indeed a great beauty, but for some reason, or perhaps his senses were playing tricks on him, he sensed a hint of hostility emanating from her. But he didn't know Chu Mingao. Why was she acting this way? Suze, let me introduce you. This is Chu Mingao, the president of KK Pharmaceuticals. She's also my and Gao Luofei's high school classmate. The three of us used to hang out a lot in high school, and we were very close. Sensing the unusual atmosphere, Bingbing quickly introduced Chu Mingao to Suzette. High school classmate? Bingbing's introduction puzzled Suzette. If they were high school classmates, why hadn't he met Chu Mingao at his wedding with Gao Luofei? Not attending a close friend's wedding unless there were special circumstances seemed unusual for such close friends. Moreover, he didn't recall Gao Luofei ever mentioning Chu Mingao. Suze felt the relationship between the three was definitely not as simple as Bingbing described. Mingao, I must introduce you properly. This is Suzette, the youngest academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences in our country. Hello, Suzette, it's a pleasure to meet you today. Hearing Bingbing's introduction, Chu Mingao spoke with great poise. Suze responded in a friendly manner. In contrast to the composed Suzette, the viewers in the live stream were in an uproar. They hadn't expected that today's expert would be Chu Mingao. Chapter 243. You know why I came? Because Song Zhou said he had no money. Really? Am I dreaming? Holy crap, Chu Mingao is actually an expert on the show? Chu Mingao, the goddess, and Bingbing are high school classmates? Does that mean all good-looking people who hang out together are good-looking? She's so beautiful. She's so photogenic. I'm an employee of 7-Pills Pharmaceuticals. Let me tell you, our CEO Chu is even more beautiful offline. Her face isn't really photogenic. She's not photogenic. God is so unfair. Even the most picky viewers in the live stream would give Chu Mingao a high score for her appearance. However, after Suze and Chu Mingao finished introducing themselves, Everyone came to the sofa from the doorway, and the subtle situation between Chu Mingyao and Gao Luofei was noticed by sharp-eyed viewers. However, I felt there was something subtle about the way the goddess and President Chu looked at each other when they made eye contact. Yeah, long-lost friends, don't you girls usually hug and hold hands? Why didn't you do that? And it didn't seem that intimate. Do you think Chu Mingyao is too young to be the president of a company worth over 100 million? Could it be through other means? After all, Seven Cocos Pharmaceuticals seems to be a private company. Soon, the enthusiastic viewers in the live stream found out who the owner of Seven Cocos Pharmaceuticals was. Now that you mention it, it's not impossible, but I can tell you responsibly, it's probably not. Why? Go check who the owner of Seven Pills Pharmaceuticals is, and you'll know why I say that. Holy crap, the owner of Seven Pills Pharmaceuticals is Song Zhou? Since it's Song Zhou, then Chu Mingyao probably didn't get there through underhanded means. After all, everyone knows Marui's personality. If Song Zhou dared to do anything, Marui would probably beat him to a pulp before we even said anything. Does Song Zhou have that kind of guts? I don't think so. Mingyao, aren't you the president of Seven Pills Pharmaceuticals? Shouldn't a president be very busy? How come you have time to participate in a program? Indeed, in most people's eyes, a president should be extremely busy, so how could they have time to participate in a variety show? I haven't had a break in 2 years, what's wrong with taking a break? Besides, my boss has already agreed. Saying this, Chu Mingyao showed him her emails with Song Zhou. Won't it be considered an approval within a minute? That's incredible. Look at the time the email was sent, it's already past 1 a.m. The boss is already asleep. How could he possibly open his email and approve it? Damn, the way she talks to the boss, anyone who didn't know better would think Chu Mingyao is the boss. That's what work is all about. I wish I could be like that someday. Don't even think about it, you don't even have that kind of ability. Sitting on the sofa, although everyone was having a normal conversation, Suzette could feel that Chu Mingyao's gaze was constantly lingering on him. Suzette also took a moment to look at himself. Everything seemed normal, nothing unusual. What was Chu Mingyao doing? Have you guys noticed? Chu Mingyao's gaze keeps lingering on Academician Su. Do you think she might have taken a liking to him? How could that be? She doesn't even consider the identities of the people here. I think it's probably just pure curiosity. If it were me, I'd be curious too. After all, this is the living Academician Su. It's understandable to be curious when seeing him for the first time. As a woman, Gao Luofei's senses were naturally very sensitive. Chu Mingyao's constant staring at Suzette was something Gao Luofei couldn't possibly miss. As a woman, seeing her husband being stared at by someone she secretly rivaled in high school was something even the most magnanimous woman like Gao Luofei couldn't pretend nothing had happened. Therefore, before Bingbing and the others could react, Gao Luofei directly asked, Mingyao, why are you staring at my husband? What's so attractive about him to you? Anyone with a brain could tell that this was a blatant threat. I knew it. There's definitely something going on between the goddess and Chu Mingyao. That was so direct, so full of tension. The battle between women is so exciting. The goddess is so fierce. Chu Mingyao must be mortified by that question. But who is Chu Mingyao? Gao Luofei's words were abrupt, but Chu Mingyao remained unfazed, meeting Gao Luofei's gaze directly as she replied, Academician Su is such an outstanding person, of course I have to take a good look. What, Fifei, can't I even look? Hearing Chu Mingyao's words, Gao Luofei was at a loss for words. After all, although Suzette was her husband, she couldn't keep him hidden like a personal possession. Since she couldn't refute him, Gao Luofei subtly shifted her body, leaning against Suzette and taking his arm, declaring her ownership through this action. Seeing Gao Luofei's behavior, Chu Mingyao simply smiled and then turned to Suzette, asking, Academician Su, do you know why I'm here today as an expert on the program? Suzette hadn't expected Chu Mingyao to bring up himself, but since she'd spoken, he couldn't pretend he hadn't heard. I don't know. Firstly, I actually came to see what kind of person Gao Luofei married, and I also heard you're the youngest academician in our country, so I came. Secondly, if you have to blame someone, blame Song Zhou. Hearing what Chu Mingyao said, Suzette was completely stunned. Blame Song Zhou? What do you mean? Not only was Suzette confused, but Bingbing and Gao Luofei were also baffled. Suzette had been explaining things clearly, so why was he suddenly blaming Song Zhou? My company's boss is Song Zhou. I've mentioned company expansion to Song Zhou 3 times, And he's told me he doesn't have the money and doesn't agree. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244. Why is there only a little over 20,000 in the bank card? I was thinking, Suzette, you're friends with Song Zhou. Since I can't do anything to my boss, I'll join the show and find your hidden stash of money to vent my anger. It'll also ease my resentment. So, today I'll put in 100% effort to find your hidden stash of money. Suzette, if you feel you've suffered heavy losses, don't blame me. Blame Song Zhou? Go find trouble for him. Hearing what Chu Mingyao said, Gao Luofei, Suzette, and Bingbing were all stunned. Bingbing hadn't expected that Chu Mingyao's reason for joining the show yesterday was actually for this. Suzette was the most speechless. What was she doing? If Song Zhou was messing with you, go find Song Zhou. Why were you causing trouble for me? The viewers in the live stream, after hearing Chu Mingyao's purpose and reason for coming here, were also dumbfounded and burst into laughter. Suzette, what the hell did I do to deserve this? Only Suzette's world has been born. After today, Suzette will definitely settle accounts with Song Zhou. 666. Chu Mingyao's move is brilliant. If she can't deal with her boss, she'll deal with her boss's friend. That's a way of getting revenge on her boss. Mingyao, your idea is indeed brilliant. Bingbing could only admire Chu Mingyao's approach. She wondered why Chu Mingyao was so willing to come. It turned out to be this. As for Gao Luofei, she was both amused and exasperated. She hadn't expected Chu Mingyao to come to her house for this reason. Alright, let's get down to business. The search for hidden stash of money activity. Let's begin now. With things clear, Chu Mingyao was ready to take action. Inside the Academy of Sciences, after Yi Yinglan brought the relevant information given by Suzette to the capital, she spent the entire night researching with academician Chen Yang and academician Yang Shengli. After initially confirming the feasibility of the technical data provided by Yi Yinglan's benefactor, Chen Yang and academician Yang Shengli decided to slow down their other research and focus all their efforts on developing this quantum communication technology. Because this matter was so important, academician Yang Shengli also decided to return to his post to participate in the research. This could be considered a retirement to work stint. Of course, opportunities should be given to younger generations. Academician Yang Shengli saw himself as a witness. Yinglan, if this technology is successfully developed, you can be nominated as an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Since the supporting documents were in order, the immediate concern for Yi Yinglan became when to begin research. Professor, when do we start research? Hearing Yi Yinglan's question, Chen Yang replied, we need to apply to the Academy and see their results. Although he said this, Chen Yang felt quite awkward about the situation. Just a month ago, he applied to the Academy of Sciences for research funding for communication technology, and the necessary personnel and equipment had all arrived. The personnel could be directly converted into researchers for the new research team. However, after reviewing the equipment, which had cost a considerable amount of money, it was discovered that very little of it was actually useful for researching the quantum communication technology that Yi Yinglan had acquired. This meant that Chen Yang's available funds for quantum communication technology research might not be sufficient. Although the country had become wealthier in recent years, and the importance of science and technology was widely acknowledged, the total amount of research funding was substantial. However, given the size of the country, especially Xiaoguo, and the numerous blockades imposed on it, other countries might only need to develop a portion of certain technologies and collaborate on the rest. But Xiaoguo was different. Without cooperation, it was forced to rely on its own efforts. Every technology required some level of research investment. The original research funding Chen Yang had received was already quite generous, and now having to start all over again made things extremely difficult. Although it was difficult, Chen Yang had to change the research topic. After all, why not study outdated technology when there was current technology available? Wasn't that just crazy? Alright, Xiao Yi, leave the funding to me. You focus on the technical documents and do the preliminary research. Hearing Chen Yang's words, Yi Yinglan understood his difficulties. She nodded without saying anything and left to go to her research post. Chen Yang, don't worry, your teacher will also give you a boost, Grandpa Yang Shengli said to Chen Yang. Then, Seeing that it was already dawn, the two of them set off immediately without resting to find the Academy of Sciences funding office. The banks are open now. Didn't you say yesterday that Suzelle had a bank card, but we haven't confirmed how much money is in it yet? Could you please check it for me, Suzette? Chu Mingyao had done her homework. Since there were still some unsold items from yesterday, she would start there. Hearing what Chu Mingyao said, Suzette didn't hesitate. He took out his phone, turned on speakerphone, and started checking the balance in the bank card. After some manual processing and identity verification, the balance in Suzette's bank card was finally checked. Mr. Su, your balance is 25,302 yuan. What? So little? Everyone was quite surprised when they heard the bank say there was only such a small amount of money in the card. Clearly, they didn't want to believe it. How could it be so little? Is there a mistake? Thinking about it, it made sense. Suzette said he hadn't touched a single penny of the money in this bank card. How could there be so little money after all these years? Unless Suzette was lying, and had secretly moved the money in the card. But that didn't make sense either. If Suzette had moved the money, there was no reason for him to lie. Chapter 245. I just allocated the money to you, and you want to change your research topic? Suzette, there's something wrong with your card balance. Where did all the money go? Chu Mingyao asked Suzette, a teasing expression on her intellectual face. Chu Mingyao only occasionally watched live streams, less than an hour or two in total. Her understanding of Suzette was limited to the news events of yesterday afternoon. As for anything else related to Suzette, Chu Mingyao had been busy persuading Songzhou to invest afterward, so she naturally hadn't looked into it and didn't know. Then, with an expression of watching a good show, Chu Mingyao looked at Gao Luofei and Bingbing and said, Gao Luofei, your husband isn't honest. He secretly transferred his secret stash of money. Luckily, I remember what happened yesterday, otherwise, Gao Luofei, you would still be holding an empty bank card and thinking you've taken a lot of Suzette's secret stash of money. Chu Mingyao was disappointed. When she finished speaking, she noticed that Gao Luofei and Bingbing didn't seem disappointed or scrutinizing at all. They looked at Suzette with completely indifferent expressions, waiting for his explanation. The two knew very well that Suzette had already handed over his billions of yuan in private savings. His academician stipend over 8 years was probably only a few million yuan, not worth Suzette lying to them. The money disappearing must be due to something else. Honey, where did the money in the bank card go? Academician Yang, what brings you here? Please have a seat. When Yang Shengli and Chen Yang arrived at the Academy of Sciences Finance Department, the director, Zhan Xiang, immediately gave them a warm welcome. Especially Yang Shengli, a big shot, who was usually expected to visit in person. Now that Yang Shengli had come to his office, Zhan Xiang was flattered and became even more polite. Seeing Chen Yang's entourage, Zhan Xiang assumed they had come to thank him for quickly allocating the necessary equipment and research funds for their experiments, and were expressing their gratitude. A friendly smile appeared on his face as he chuckled and said to Chen Yang, Academician Chen, you don't need to do this. This is all part of my job. You've even invited Academician Yang, you're too kind. Hearing Zhan Xiang's words, Chen Yang glanced at Yang Shengli. Zhan Xiang had clearly misunderstood their purpose. If he revealed their true intentions, wouldn't things become awkward? However, despite this, what needed to be done still had to be done. Chen Yang, while agreeing with Zhan Xiang, explained his purpose for being there. Director Zhan, you've misunderstood. We've come here today to request research funding from you. Hearing Chen Yang's words, Zhan Xiang was immediately stunned. Is it because the research funding hasn't arrived? That shouldn't be the case. I remember the entire 50 million yuan funding has been transferred to Academician Chen's dedicated account. Could I have made a mistake, Academician Chen? Please wait a moment, let me check if there's a problem on our end. Don't worry, as long as your research funding has been approved, we certainly won't shortchange you. Saying this, Zhan Xiang prepared to get up and go to the computer in his office to check the relevant accounting documents. Director Zhan, you misunderstand us. The 50 million yuan research funding has been fully allocated, and I have already used this funding to complete all the equipment. Chen Yang's words left Zhan Xiang somewhat bewildered. Since the laboratory has already been built, why is he asking for more funding? Director Zhan, it's like this, I plan to change the research direction. I discussed the original project with Academician Yang, and we plan to abandon it, so I'm here to request new research funding." As soon as Chen Yang said this, Zhan Xiang immediately looked at Chen Yang and Yang Shengli incredulously, like a cat with its fur standing on end. "What? Academician Chen, you're not joking, are you? You mean you're abandoning your previous project and choosing a new one?" Chen Yang's project had just been established and was about to begin research. To say he was choosing a new topic now? This was no joke. If that were the case, the original 50 million yuan would be wasted. Zhan Xiang, as a participant in the funding application process, was a crucial link in the chain. He knew how many people struggle to secure even 5 million yuan in research funding, let alone 50 million. Yet Chen Yang was throwing away 50 million yuan without a trace, treating the Academy's money like it was nothing. Chen Yang's actions caused Zhan Xiang's expression to change drastically, becoming extremely unpleasant. With Academician Yang Shengli present, he couldn't say anything too harsh, but his tone became official and serious. "Academician Chen Xiang, you should know the consequences of your actions according to the relevant procedures, right? At best, it's an inappropriate topic selection, wasting research funds. At worst, people will think our funding department took a lot of benefits from you." Academician Chen Yang, saying we're colluding with you, facilitating the fraudulent acquisition of research funds, causing the loss of state funds. Academician Chen Yang, tell me, have I taken a single penny from you? Zhan Xiang's tone was harsh, but Chen Yang knew his actions were indeed inappropriate, and could only explain, "Director Zhan, I understand what you're saying, and I know my actions are definitely wrong. But there were reasons for it. You don't trust my character, but Academician Yang, don't you understand? It's like this." Then, Chen Yang, using language Zhan Xiang could understand as much as possible, briefly described why he chose to change topics. During this time, Yang Shengli also explained some details to Zhan Xiang. After hearing the explanations from Chen Yang and Yang Shengli, Zhan Xiang understood why they had done what they did. Since it was for the public good, Zhan Xiang's expression softened considerably. However, he still frowned. This matter was indeed difficult to handle. "Academician Chen, I spoke too harshly just now, I hope you don't mind." Chapter 246 The Hidden Dragon Foundation, Suzhou Behind-the-Scenes Foundation. "However, Academician Chen, I understand the specifics, but this matter is very difficult, as you all know," Zhan Xiang said with considerable difficulty. While being able to research more advanced technologies is indeed a cause for celebration, rules are rules. Since the funding has already been applied for, the same person cannot, in principle, change research topics within a year. Moreover, with the necessary equipment and personnel already costing 30 to 40 million yuan, even though the instruments can be sold, a considerable portion of the funds has been wasted. This is truly a difficult situation. Director Zhan, everyone's intentions are good, and I understand your work. I just want to see if there's any way to resolve this, Chen Yang said to Zhan Xiang. As for the elderly Mr. Yang Shengli standing to the side, he immediately added, "If Director Zhan finds this matter difficult, then we won't bother you any further." Academician Yang, what are you saying? I'm just a director, after all, my abilities are limited. Zhan Xiang finished speaking and continued, however, you can try asking Vice President Wu Hong, who is in charge of research projects. Perhaps Vice President Wu can help. If he couldn't make the decision himself, then he would find someone who could. As the Vice President in charge of research project approval within the Academy of Sciences, Wu Hong was one of the most powerful vice presidents. Everything in the Academy of Sciences concerning the establishment and approval of research projects had to be approved by Wu Hong. If Chen Yang and Yang Shengli could persuade Wu Hong to agree to change the topic under these circumstances, then Zhan Xiang could raise the issue of funding. If everything went smoothly, then Chen Yang's project on quantum communication transmission methods could continue without having to wait another year. Although he didn't get a completely definite answer from Zhan Xiang's attitude was enough to explain everything. If they could persuade Wu Hong, it would be a huge step forward. But this Chu Mingyao, is this how a subordinate should act? When Song Zhou woke up in his bed that morning, he picked up his phone and saw an email from Chu Mingyao. Song Zhou assumed Chu Mingyao was still debating the investment and expansion, so he opened the email. However, when Song Zhou saw the contents, he was immediately dumbfounded. Holy crap, she emailed me late at night asking for leave, and I didn't even refuse for a minute, which he took as agreement. Am I the boss or is she the boss? Having managed so many companies, this was the first time Song Zhou had encountered such an arrogant subordinate. Of course, besides being angry, Song Zhou understood the reason behind Chu Mingyao's actions. It was simply because he had rejected her expansion application again yesterday. In fact, Song Zhou had carefully reviewed Chu Mingyao's expansion plan. If implemented according to Chu Mingyao's plan, it could indeed transform KK Pharmaceuticals into a large pharmaceutical company with a market value of tens of billions in the shortest possible time. However, just as Song Zhou had told Chu Mingyao, 7 Pills Pharmaceuticals was indeed out of money. Although 7 Pills Pharmaceuticals had high annual profits, aside from daily administrative expenses and new product development, 90% of those profits were transferred from 7 Pills Pharmaceuticals accounts by Song Zhou. Of course, while Song Zhou might not be extremely wealthy, managing so many companies meant his personal wealth was considerable, and since these companies belonged to Suzette, Song Zhou wouldn't do anything to benefit himself at Suzette's expense. The reason Song Zhou did this was because of something Suzette had instructed him to do, the Hidden Dragon Foundation. The Hidden Dragon Foundation was a foundation established by Suzette. The term Hidden Dragon comes from the idiom a dragon hidden in the abyss, referring to those who haven't yet demonstrated their talents. This foundation was responsible for investments. These investments weren't in the conventional sense of investing in various companies, but rather in research projects that couldn't conduct normal research due to a lack of funding. The Hidden Dragon Foundation's main investment targets, aside from a very few promising independent scientists, were mostly scholars within the research system. For example, young scientists, members of the Thousand Talents program, or academicians of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. As long as these individuals can present research projects that appeal to the foundation, and once the foundation completes its internal approval process, the research projects will be supported. Breakthroughs in the scientific field are all that matters, whether there are significant economic benefits, or how long it takes to achieve those benefits, are not within the Qianlong Foundation's consideration. Because Suzette has the identity of a leader in the revitalization of China, the Qianlong Foundation's operation in China has not been affected in the slightest. The Qianlong Foundation has been established for 8 years. Since its inception, the foundation has saved as many as 24,758 research projects. The amount of money spent, according to incomplete statistics, is countless, but it is at least in the hundreds of billions. With such a large investment, some projects succeeded, and some failed. Of these, 16,390 have yielded results, 9,510 are still under research, and 8,858 projects have failed. Overall, although the Hidden Dragon Foundation has been profitable over the years, the long-term return period has resulted in a persistent deficit. Unlike other foundations that engage in public or private fundraising, the foundation's funds are entirely provided by Suzette. This requires Suzette's companies to contribute a majority of their profits to the Hidden Dragon Foundation annually. Consequently, 7 Pillars Pharmaceuticals simply doesn't have the funds to support Chu Mingyao's ambitious plans. If you want to rest, then rest, as long as the company doesn't run into problems. Song Zhou doesn't care about Chu Mingyao anymore. Opening the live stream to see how much more of Suzette's secret stash of money had been discovered, Song Zhou was surprised to find Chu Mingyao there. Holy crap, why is this crazy woman participating in a show? Chapter 247. Could academicians who have fallen victim to a telecom scam? What's Chu Mingyao doing here? Song Zhou was quite surprised to see Chu Mingyao on the show. He was especially surprised after hearing Bingbing introduce Chu Mingyao and Gao Luofei as high school classmates. Song Zhou hadn't really known much about this. The reason Chu Mingyao was chosen as the president of 7 Pills Pharmaceuticals was simply because the company was incompetent and had made some mistakes, leading to her being dismissed. Chu Mingyao's performance and abilities were outstanding within the company, so she was chosen for the position. Song Zhou clearly remembered not seeing Chu Mingyao among the bridesmaids at Suzette's wedding. Now, seeing this, Song Zhou understood that Chu Mingyao and Gao Luofei probably didn't get along. What happened next in the live stream confirmed Song Zhou's suspicions. The reason I'm here is because of Song Zhou. When Song Zhou heard Chu Mingyao's words, he was even more alarmed. Damn it, is she trying to get revenge on me like this? If you find out about Suzette's secret stash of money, Suzette will definitely cause you trouble. Song Zhou was on the verge of tears, and could only pray that Chu Mingyao wouldn't discover any of Suze's top secret stashes of money today. Seeing Chu Mingyao relentlessly pursuing the ICBC card where Suze's state allowance was originally stored, wanting to get to the bottom of it, Song Zhou felt relieved. Others might not know why there was so much money in Suze's ICBC card, but how could Song Zhou not know? Perhaps even Suze himself didn't know better than Song Zhou. Because Suze had completely entrusted this matter to Song Zhou. For Suzette, Song Zhou had hardly spent any of the company's dividends, except for the wedding and the large expenses for buying a villa and car for Gao Luofei. Normally, he only spent money on research. But that money was all kept under a special company account, so Suzette, for the best use of the money, entrusted the ICBC card containing the state allowance to Song Zhou. Song Zhou's solution was simple. He categorized the bank card under the fundraising channels of the Qianlong Foundation. Whenever there was an emergency and the foundation's accounts were low, a portion of the money in this bank card would be transferred for research purposes. Sure enough, another transfer occurred half a month ago, leaving Suze's ICBC card with only 25,302 yuan. Knowing everything, Song Zhou wasn't too concerned about Chu Mingyao seizing the ICBC card. Even if the card were investigated, it would only lead to the Qianlong Foundation. Song Zhou knew that the Qianlong Foundation was a product of Suze's collaboration with Fuxing. With Fuxing's prestige and the completely legal and compliant funds provided by Suzette, there was nothing to fear about being reported. Internally, as one of the foundation's main leaders, Song Zhou understood that the Qianlong Foundation's internal fundraising channels were derived from profits drawn from Suze's various companies. However, externally, the Qianlong Foundation consistently claimed to have 39 members engaged in fundraising. They found out. It's just that Suze is one of the 39 members, it's nothing serious. Besides, this indirectly exposes some of the things Suze didn't want him to tell the outside world. Song Zhou wanted the outside world to know about all the things Suze had done in private. Relieved, Song Zhou quietly observed Chu Mingyao's actions. This card definitely has a problem, otherwise, how could there be so little money? Did you notice Professor Su's expression? I feel like Professor Su doesn't know the specific flow of money in this card either. Impossible. He always carries his own bank card with him. How could something like this happen? I'm actually not too sure either. Let's check the card's transaction history. Suze entrusted this card to Song Zhou. Suze didn't concern himself with anything else. As for how Song Zhou handled it, Suze might not know the specifics, but the expenses were limited, so Suze could roughly guess. However, since even Gao Luofei showed curiosity and wanted to see where the money in this ICBC card was being used, Suze decided to check the bank statements as well. Since this bank card allowed transfers to other accounts without Suze's confirmation, it must have online banking enabled, allowing him to view account statements online. Suze downloaded the ICBC app on his phone and logged into the account. He then clicked the View Statements button, selecting only 1 year's worth of data at a time. In the first year, a total of 188,170 yuan was spent from Suze's account, with a most recent transaction of 58,907 yuan, made half a month ago. In the second year, a total of 688,170 yuan was spent. The third year, they viewed the statements for 5 years. Upon seeing the account's transaction records, everyone discovered that all the money was ultimately transferred to an account called Guanghu Technology Company, Limited. Why is all the money being transferred to this Guanghu Technology Company, Limited account? What does this company do? Does anyone know? I looked it up online, and it seems like this company doesn't have any actual business operations. It feels like a shell company. I seem to remember a telecom fraud gang with the name Guanghu Technology recently. Could Akademiciansu have been scammed? If it's online fraud, the amount is huge. Over 5 years, it'd be close to 3 million. Chapter 248 Holy crap, it's actually the Hidden Dragon Foundation. What fraudulent company? Could you guys have done some research beforehand? That telecom fraud company's name is Guanghu Technology Network Company, Limited, but this one doesn't even have a website. But speaking of which, this company is really strange. It doesn't seem to have any specific activities publicly. Look at this accounting record. It's been 5 years. How could there be no activity at all? Yeah, a company that can make Akademiciansu so persistent in making money can't be mediocre. How come it stopped 5 years ago? While the viewers in the live stream were very curious about this company called Guanghu Technology Company, Limited, Bingbing asked Suzette. Suzette, I remember you said yesterday that you were an academician 8 years ago, so why does your bank statement only go up to 5 years ago? Now that Bingbing asked, I realize, it's true, academician Su was an academician 8 years ago, so why does the bank statement only go up to 5 years ago? Wait, have you noticed why the statement only goes up to 5 years ago? Didn't academician Su become an academician 8 years ago? The timeline doesn't match up. Yes, something strange. Could it be that the matter of Suzette being an academician is about to encounter another setback? Bingbing's words also brought Gao Luofei and Chu Mingayao to their senses. Yes, he was an academician 8 years ago, so why does his bank statement only go up to 5 years ago? Only Suzette, the person involved, can answer this question. Suzette only became an academician 5 years ago. The fact that he became an academician 8 years ago was something Yi Yinglan, Chen Yang, and Yang Shengli mentioned yesterday. Suzette hadn't said it himself. He only tacitly acknowledged it to resolve yesterday's troubles. Now, being asked this, Suzette didn't know how to answer. Guanghu Technology Company, Limited, isn't that someone's account? Upon seeing the name Guanghu Technology Company, Limited, Chu Mingayao vaguely remembered hearing or seeing it somewhere before. It must have been in the last few days. Because it hadn't been long, Chu Mingayao quickly remembered. Wasn't Guanghu Technology Company, Limited the account of a company under the Qianlong Foundation? Mingayao, what's wrong? Do you know anything about this company? When Bingbing heard Chu Mingayao's sudden question, Gao Luofei and Bingbing's attention was successfully diverted by Chu Mingayao's words. Compared to the past 5 or 8 years, Guanghu Technology Company, Limited, where Suzette had consistently made money, attracted their attention more. After all, the continuous transfers and remittances over the past 5 years, totaling nearly 3 million, were not a small sum. Upon hearing Bingbing's question, Chu Mingayao slowly replied in a slightly heavy tone, speaking of which, I first saw this company's name at Songzhou's place. Hearing Chu Mingayao's words, the two women exchanged a glance and then looked at Suzette. Everyone knew about the relationship between Songzhou and Suzette, so there was definitely something fishy going on in this matter. I was discussing something with Songzhou, and then a message about this company popped up. After we parted on bad terms, I became curious about what kind of company it was, so I looked it up online. Logically, a company that Songzhou could see shouldn't be an ordinary company, but I couldn't find any information about it online. Feeling strange, I asked a friend to check. And finally we found something. This Guanghu Technology Company, Limited isn't actually a company in the traditional sense. It's exactly as some viewers in the live stream said, it doesn't have any real business or office space. It's just a shell company with a business license and an account. Of course, although it's a shell company, it's not a fraudulent company as some viewers in the live stream claimed. Because, to be precise, it's a foundation's account. Hearing what Chu Mingayao said, Suzette couldn't help but glance at her again. He knew that due to the special nature of the Qianlong Foundation, not many people knew about its existence. He hadn't expected Chu Mingayao to know about it. As for Songzhou, who had watched the entire live stream, he was filled with regret. Damn, I'll have to be more careful in the future. This woman's observation skills are pretty sharp. After the transaction record came out, Songzhou noticed Chu Mingayao's strange expression. Sure enough, what Chu Mingayao said next confirmed Songzhou's suspicions. Just a few days ago, Chu Mingayao had discussed company expansion with him for the second time. A message popped up, about Guanghu Technology Company, Limited. However, Songzhou was quick-witted and swiped past it in less than a second. Songzhou thought Chu Mingayao hadn't seen it, but it turned out she had. Although exposing the Qianlong Foundation wasn't a big deal, it was still a small lesson for Songzhou's mistake. In the future, he would close any software like QQ or email when others were around, and he absolutely couldn't make this mistake again. Amid everyone's curiosity, Chu Mingayao finally revealed the name of the foundation. Actually, the name of this foundation is the Qianlong Foundation. Qianlong Foundation, that name sounds so high-end. Qianlong, is it taken from the hidden dragon in the Abyss idiom? That sounds really impressive. Wow, the Qianlong Foundation. What kind of foundation does academician Su belong to? It's so mysterious. Since it's academician Su's, it must be a foundation related to scientific research, not necessarily. Don't forget, Akademician Su is also an entrepreneur. It's the Qianlong Foundation. I didn't expect Akademician Su to be a member of the Qianlong Foundation. Brother upstairs, it seems you know something about this foundation. Can you tell us about it? Chapter 249. How could there be a foundation in this world that doesn't make money? With so many people in the live stream, some of them did have some knowledge of the Qianlong Foundation. However, it was mostly hearsay or rumors. I know a little about the Qianlong Foundation, but not much. I only know that it has 39 members. I know nothing else. I can't say for sure. Isn't Chu Mingyao here? She definitely knows more than I do. We'll hear her explanation later. President Chu, stop being so mysterious. Just tell us. Why don't you tell us yourself, Akademician Su? He definitely knows more than Chu Mingyao. Just listen to what the person involved has to say. I was quite surprised when I found out that such a foundation existed. However, since Akademician Su is a member of the Qianlong Foundation, I have the utmost respect for him. There's actually such a foundation? That's really unexpected. You're really teasing us. While the viewers in the live stream were excitedly discussing this matter, Bingbing asked Gao Luofei a question. Hidden Dragon Foundation, Fifei, have you heard of it? Gao Luofei was, after all, Suze's wife. Even though Suze had deliberately hidden the Hidden Dragon Foundation, Gao Luofei might have heard of it or even seen it. Faced with Bingbing's question, Gao Luofei shook her head and said, I haven't really heard of anything about the Hidden Dragon Foundation. Since Gao Luofei didn't know either, Bingbing could only look at Chu Mingyao and Suzette. Currently, only Suze and Chu Mingyao knew about it. Of course, without a doubt, Suze was the one who knew the most. However, Suze hadn't mentioned this matter before. Although it had been discovered, before Suze confessed, Gao Luofei and Bingbing still wanted to hear a third party's opinion. In fact, what puzzled Gao Luofei and Bingbing the most after hearing about the Hidden Dragon Foundation was why Suze would transfer money to the foundation from time to time. Honey, why did you transfer money to this foundation's bank account? Hearing Gao Luofei's question, and knowing that things had already come to this point, Suzette, who wasn't deaf, knew that Chu Mingyao's presence was all thanks to Song Zhou's good deed. Suze had no reason to hide anything and said directly, don't ask me about this. Although the card is with me, I gave the card number and password to Song Zhou. As for why I transferred money out, it's probably because the foundation is short of funds. Song Zhou, Chu Mingyao gave Suze a deep look after hearing his explanation. What a close friend he must be, to even give him his bank card's account number and password. It seemed that to achieve her goal of getting revenge on Song Zhou, she would definitely have to find as much of Suze's secret stash of money as possible. Song Zhou is so rich, what would he want with your bank card? Everyone present knew Song Zhou's wealth. How could someone so rich possibly be interested in Suze's meager savings? There must be some inside story. Alright, let me finish explaining the information about the Qianlong Foundation before we discuss these matters properly. Chu Mingyao finally spoke, recounting what she knew about the Qianlong Foundation. However, before she began, Chu Mingyao's attitude towards Suze visibly changed. Whether it was Gao Luofei and Bingbing present at the scene, or the viewers in the live stream, everyone could see the change in Chu Mingyao. Information about the Qianlong Foundation is limited, it's something only a few people know. Of course, this doesn't mean the Qianlong Foundation is deliberately keeping a low profile or plotting anything, but rather that the nature of this foundation is rather special, Chu Mingyao explained slowly, and the viewers in the live stream stopped arguing and joined in the discussion about the Qianlong Foundation. Special? How special? Is this foundation doing something illegal? Who is Akademician Su? How could he do such a thing? No matter how special the nature of the foundation is, it still has to make money, right? It must be for making money. Making money? If the foundation is only for making money, then why does Akademician Su need to make money from time to time? You only saw the money transfers, not the dividends. Who says dividends have to be in this bank card? If you ask me, Suze must have secretly hidden a card, and we just don't know it, exactly. Even if it's not a bank card, there are so many ways to make dividends, there must be a hidden method. Gao Luofei, Bingbing, you two and the viewers in the live stream must have felt something very strange just now, that is, why is Suze constantly transferring money to the foundation without receiving any remittances? Hearing Chu Mingyao's words, Gao Luofei and Bingbing nodded. Indeed, they had the same thought just now. As for the viewers in the live stream, they also strongly agreed with Chu Mingyao's words. Who wouldn't have thought of this? You might guess that Suze has another card, or that he obtained dividends through other means, but I'm certain you're all wrong. Suze couldn't possibly receive any profit from the foundation. The unique thing about the Qianlong Foundation is that its founding principle is clear: the foundation only takes in, it doesn't give out. All the foundation's funds come from donations by its members, and even if the foundation generates profits, it doesn't distribute dividends to its members. Only takes in, no out, no dividends. What kind of foundation is this, really? Are you sure such a foundation exists? President Chu's words are so certain, it must be true. If that's the case, this isn't a foundation, it's clearly a charity. Chapter 250. There are actually people who invest not for the money. The reason it's stipulated this way is because the Qianlong Foundation wasn't established solely for profit, but to support domestic research projects. Although the annual research funding allocated domestically is increasing year by year, with so many people and projects, the actual amount of funding distributed is very small. It's lucky if it covers even half of the needs, let alone all of them. The Qianlong Foundation was established to fill this gap. Research projects that cannot obtain funding through official channels, or whose funding is insufficient, can apply for research funding from the foundation. After a research project is successfully completed, the foundation receives 50% of the profits. Although the foundation's return on investment from projects is decent, I've heard that almost all of the foundation's projects fall under the natural sciences. These projects are purely about breaking through existing technological limitations and are unlikely to generate any profit. As far as I know, the Qianlong Foundation has been established for 8 years, and in all that time, it has only had 39 members. And it is these 39 members who provide the Qianlong Foundation's research funding. As for the operation of the Qianlong Foundation, since it's not a public institution, all information is confidential, so no one knows for sure. However, some conservative estimates suggest it has at least over 100 billion in funds. However, after 8 years of operation, I thought the Qianlong Foundation should have already turned a profit, but judging from the bank statements just now, it's still in a loss-making state. At this point, Chu Mingyao gave Suze a deep look. The more details they discussed, the more Chu Mingyao's admiration for Suze grew. Becoming a member of the Qianlong Foundation was practically doing charity for the country's scientific research. Thinking about this, Chu Mingyao suddenly realized something she hadn't considered last night. Since she saw Guanghu Technology Company, Limited at Songzhou's place, which led to the subsequent chain reaction, how did Songzhou know? Considering Suze was also a member of the Qianlong Foundation, the only explanation became clear. Could it be that Songzhou was also a member of the Qianlong Foundation? The reason Seven Pillars Pharmaceuticals was short of money wasn't because Songzhou had taken it and squandered it, as she had thought, but because they genuinely didn't have any. Although they had this idea, everything remained unknown until confirmed with evidence, and verification was still needed. After Chu Mingyao's explanation, everyone present, except Suzette, gained a certain understanding of the Qianlong Foundation. Upon learning that the Qianlong Foundation was such a foundation, Gao Luofei and Bingbing's gazes towards Suze changed. They hadn't expected Suze to be secretly doing such a great thing. Husband, is what Chu Mingyao said true? Hearing Gao Luofei's words, Suze nodded. It seemed that Songzhou's image of the Qianlong Foundation for him was quite successful. Chu Mingyao's words were a mixture of truth and falsehood. Although there were some discrepancies, this was the effect she wanted to create. Originally, Suze's purpose in establishing 39 people in the Qianlong Foundation was to conceal himself. After all, if it were exposed that he was the only one providing funds for the Qianlong Foundation, it would be interesting, and the consequences would be significant. Now, with a private stash system, looking back, Suze's initial decision was incredibly wise. If it were before, and the Hidden Dragon Foundation had been discovered, Suze's vast savings and hidden businesses would have been wiped out, resulting in heavy losses and a reduction in his daily technology points by at least half. But now, Suze is just one of 39 people, so the total amount of his hidden savings that could be affected is significantly less. Upon receiving Suze's confirmation, Gao Luofei's gaze towards him deepened with admiration and infatuation. No wonder he was her man, so talented, yet so compassionate and selfless. Seeing Gao Luofei and Suze's loving relationship, the usually competitive Chu Mingyao felt a pang of jealousy and envy. Why was Gao Luofei so lucky to have found a husband like Suzette? If I followed Gao Luofei's wedding vow to find a husband better than Suzette, would such a person truly exist in this world? An 18-year-old academician, a research genius, a billionaire, a member of the Qianlong Foundation. Intelligent, optimistic, young, sunny, handsome, compassionate, loving towards his wife, and selfless. Many people possess these qualities individually, but the combination is truly rare. Besides Gao Luofei, Chu Mingyao, and Bingbing, the viewers in the live stream were immediately agitated after hearing everything Chu Mingyao said about the Qianlong Foundation. After all, what the Qianlong Foundation had done was completely beyond their expectations. They hadn't imagined that in this era, there were actually people who had quietly and selflessly invested so much money in the country's scientific research. Not only was the amount substantial, but the time commitment was also 8 years. Qianlong, the Qianlong Foundation truly lives up to its name. They're quietly doing real work for these people. Academician Su is amazing. He's a role model for us all. The difference is huge. Some people are still hindering or sabotaging scientific development for their own personal gain, while Academician Su's actions are truly great. Don't just praise Academician Su. Did Chu Mingyao say the Qianlong Foundation has 39 members? The others are great too, okay? They should be praised as well. Yes. Does anyone know the Qianlong Foundation's official website, or their account? I have some money, I want to donate. Yes. Such a great thing shouldn't be left to Academician Su and the others to do alone. We should also make our contribution. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.